This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Do you want to bang it out a little bit?
I love when you say bang it out.
Yo, 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 yo. It's Our Lifestyle Podcast, episode 297. Thanks for rocking with us. We're back. We got a jam-packed episode. I think Mike and I, if I got him on, I think we're going to have a shorter segment. I don't know if that's possible, but Miggity Mike the Mayor, are you there, brother?
Bro, I am here. Hey, did you get it all wet? Stick it in, get it wet?
Dude, the memory card, I had to keep inserting and reinserting it. It wasn't reading it. Does that ever happen to you?
Did you pull it out and put it back in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what you do, right?
Did it slide right back in?
Yeah, it was like butter.
Like butter. Love it. Dude, absolutely wonderful. Had a fabulous freaking weekend. Got to see a bunch of our boys, our girls, our homies, our chicas this past weekend at Southern Tradition. Hats off to Frank and Heather for putting on a great show like they always do. And, bro, the only thing we could ask for anything better was just some no fucking rain. But, god dang, does it rain, man. Almost rained the whole way there. Almost rained the whole way back. But, hey, all in all, it was a great weekend. I mean, we got to see Damian Davis, the Boons, Dizzy, fucking Glenn Brown, the Culpeppers, David and Brandy. I mean, dude, how can we not forget we got to see Cookies and Cream. And, dude, just so you know.
Oh, shit.
Just so you know, Banana Hammock, Gone Postal, Little Bird, Big Bird, whatever the hell you want to call it, was at the same show, okay, with Cookies and Cream. And, bro, I toppled him. I got him
on the points?
I got him by 1 point.
Yeah.
By 1 point, I got him.
And
those judges...
There were no there was no money exchange, right? Like under the table.
No, never no money exchange at all. Dizzy might have done a little, favors, little reach arounds or whatever. I had no part of it. I don't know what was going on, but it was good to see our boy Eddie, and of course, his tour manager, the world tour manager. So we got to see both of them. And so, hey, life was good, man. We had a great time. Good. Of course, Lauren and Andrew Miller, they were out there promoting. And so, dude, we had a fabulous. Dude, they had some really high-quality vehicles. Shane Andrews was out there with his, fighter jet truck. We had a great time, man. I got to chill with our homeboy, Scotty the Body. Got to park next to, two badass Mazdas out there. Then of course, Damien went and did the whole photo shoot with all the graphics. You know how they do that, man. So they did that out there and had a good time, man. We went and had ice cream at Busta's. Got to see Joey with Get Decked, and of course, we can't forget the #1 OLP super fan is what he called himself.
Yo.
Listens every week. Our boy Gage, man. Gage. Not only is Gage the #1 OLP super fan, but he's also the Uno champion. Homeboy took out all those grown men and Uno. Never seen so many grown men cry in my whole entire life. But when Gage put the smackdown on them and took them out, and being 2 years in a row at Southern Tradition.
Dude, that's top ropes.
Off to Gage.
That's top ropes, Gage, right there. And thanks for going top ropes on Mike. I heard that you went down on him and kind of got the elbow to the face because Mike was walking around thinking Banana Hammock was the best to show. But dude, I'm so glad. I don't know how you eked out Cookies and Cream. I'm gonna have to do some ODB investigative work. So we'll have to see, Mike. But for now, I guess it stands. We'll take you for your word.
Well, hey, on Sunday when they made the announcements during the judging, or during the trophy ceremony, they still gave them best of show truck, but I got the judging sheets to prove it, bro. So I don't know what happened. But I think there might have been a technicality that, I did check off the wrong box that said do not get judged, but they judged mine. They judged mine anyway.
Yep.
So I think they might, Eddie's a big dude. So I think maybe they were worried that if they didn't give him the best of show truck, that he would have got angry or something. And I wasn't there on Sunday to accept the award anyway. So I think that's what it might have been.
Yeah, and they're not shipping. I mean, come on. They ain't shipping that stuff to you,
No, there is no shipping show trophies, bro. That does not happen.
Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for coming back, listening to OLP. If you're a new listener and you've come here because of Sean is a great guy. This episode is jam-packed. Mike and I are going to have a shorter intro here. The key thing is, Sean from RAD BMX Builds stops by, almost a 30-year veteran to the U.S. Military. So salute to him. And it's jam-packed, Mike. We talk mini trucks. He's got a connection to Devious Customs. We talk, of course, bikes. He also recently went to Haro Bikes, and there's stuff on his YouTube channel, so we'll get into all that. Mike, we're also going to I'm going to try, right, because we're going to have a shorter segment. I'm going to try to link up with Ryan Morgan. I know you've been telling me, you go, yo, Jay, didn't you have an idea? You said, because I snore loud, right? And you said, yo, Jay, if you're sleeping, Ryan wants to kind of do a deal where they get the Viair compressors and put them up next to your ear while you're dead asleep, and they're going to see if they can wake you up, right? Maybe YouTube. We'll have to figure out where it's going to go. But that's how quiet they're saying these new compressors are from Viair. And, Mike, if you know mini trucks, we love our compressors. Viair, believe it or not, little fun fact, at the beginning of our episode, when you hear that compressor and then you hear those air valves, that's AccuAir and that's Viair paired together. So, Mike, how cool would that be, man? Maybe get one by each ear and see how long I could sleep with them just full fucking tilt. Let's be honest.
Bro, I honestly think that you're going to be able to sleep right through it because I was straight across from them at Scraping the Coast. They were running them, displaying them, and I couldn't hear them. It sounded like a hummingbird over there, bro. They were so quiet.
Dude, I love
so
it.
Quiet.
Mike, I'm glad that you had a good time at Southern Tradition. I would tell people it's every July. It's Canton, Georgia. Don't get it confused. Don't get it twisted. It's not Canton, Ohio. They're down in the great state of Georgia. Every July, you can find Southern Tradition, Facebook and Instagram. Waka and team are great people. Mike, we don't have a lot of time. I do apologize, but I do got one question for you. We got the trivia with Mike. Are you ready?
Now it's time to get serious.
Bro, I am always ready. And hey, just like last week, this again is going to be sponsored by, well, you know what? No, it's not. Let's go ahead and let's go.
Yeah.
Because you know why? He didn't even listen to last week's podcast. When we tried to give him a shout-out, didn't even listen to it.
You know what?
So you know what?
Blacklisted.
F that other guy.
Hashtag
Yes,
blacklisted.
blacklisted. Absolutely.
Dude,
absolutely.
If Dizzy's got a problem, he comes through you. You know what I'm saying? He comes through
Boom.
you, Mike. Okay, Mike,
Boom.
so listen, I know Sean will know this one. I recently used this one. I know you're probably not going to know it. But I'm going to give you a couple good hints, man. So
you're actually going to give me some good hints. I'm shocked. Okay.
One of the hints is the name of this group is going to be the new name of your truck in a few minutes. You're going to get that announcement, right? I know you don't know that's coming. But in 1983, this hit single from an English girl band is released. Now here's the key. It's released. It comes out in America in 84 via a movie. Now it's not on the soundtrack. It's on it. I'm going to tell you the movie. It's in the Karate Kid movie. Okay, it's one of my all-time favorite songs. Okay, you guys can knock me down or whatever, man. It brings me back to the early days. It's featured in Karate Kid. Released technically in 83, again, English girl band, by the name of this band. So you can name the band, you can name the song. I'm going to give you the tick either way, right? The other cool thing is about 20-some-odd years later, Ace of Base, they re-record the song, and it's a jam hit. I think there's even now, there's maybe even a TV show named after the song. I don't know. But if you think back to the Karate Kid, dude, with some Elizabeth Shue playing some soccer, this song kicks in and it just brings you back. And the last one, Simmons Paint, his truck is named this, right? We saw it at Orange Beach Invasion. We saw them down at that show, EBGD. We saw him at Eastbound Get Down in January. His truck is named after this song. So if you can't get this one, Mike, I mean, I don't know that I can throw you any more softballs.
Bro, I tell you what, this softball is probably one of the softest softballs you have ever, threw me. And you know what? At the same time, I honestly don't even know what the heck it is because,
dude, man, you're letting us down. Well, I'm gonna tell you here. It's "Cruel Summer," dude. You remember the song? It's a cruel summer. That's the name of Simmons Paint truck. Okay, and it's by the name. Don't get ahead of myself. Bananarama. So Josh Ellis and I came up with the idea. There's the banana hammock, and that's hard enough to say, like in Carney. Banana his hammock, right? What we were thinking is we'll rename it like the Bananarama hammock. And then when we say the Carney,
because that's so much easier to say,
right? Because there's a lot of syllables in there. I mean, more than I can count. I mean, remember, I went to Land O'Lakes High School, right? But Bananarama saying "Cruel Summer," dude, and that's the jam still, bro. And I know you know the song, but it's still fun playing.
Because I have even after you tell me what it was called, I still have no clue what that song is.
I could see you bebopping to it, man. Next to your truck. And I'm telling you, dude, if you go get you some lizard skin or some alligator boots, I think you need to get like kind of the whole outfit because, dude, think about, when Eddie Gordy's at a show, don't be intimidated, by Eddie's, ready to knock you out. Kind of feel like, if you get the outfit to go with your truck, I think that's going to persuade the judges to go, do you see Mike over there with the alligator skin boots listening to some Bananaramic in the banana hammock? Bananarama?
Yeah.
Dude,
bro.
You won't even need
You've
billet.
You've done confused the hell out of yourself now, bro.
You won't even need billet. The billet, Bananarama, his hammock, dude. I mean, Papa Smurf would be so proud of how we've laced this story together, He loved doing that, the nicknames and all that. So, I mean, the front. If we ever do a front license plate on your truck, it's going to be long. It's going to be longer than one of those European tags,
Bro, I think it's going to take up the whole fucking bumper, bro. I mean, we're just going to keep adding nicknames to this damn truck, and it's just going to keep going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. But hey, as long as Gracie May is there, yes. I don't think Eddie will. Well, I don't think Eddie. She'll keep Eddie under control.
The manager,
and we
stage manager.
Oh, she is the world tour manager. I asked her. I said, "Hey, can you make sure you get Eastbound Get Down January 13th through the 15th, 2023, Destination Daytona Complex in Ormond Beach, Florida? Can you get that marked down on your calendar, please?" And she says, "I got you taken care of. Don't worry, got it." She says, "As soon as pre-registration opens, I'll make sure to get that pre-registration in." And but of course, he's got to have that pavilion parking, right up front by the stage.
Yeah.
So it's like, we got you.
Air conditioned trailer bathroom, those. Like, I got to have that within 30 feet of the booth.
Absolutely.
I got, there's parameters that you have to meet to kind of get someone like Eddie or myself to come to your show,
Oh, absolutely. So, and I got to have the concrete. He's got to get the concrete. The red carpet's going to be rolled out for him.
Dude, that's awesome, Mike. Well, listen, dude, I know the longtime listeners, we're going to have to cut our segment a little bit short. I got to run up to a little truck meet tonight for Tuesday. Mike's out gallivanting. He's got stuff going on. I want to thank all of the new listeners that we've picked up. I'll also say thank you so much to Scraping the Coast, our title sponsor with Custom Car Show Productions. Their next event is Bayou Showdown, Slidell, Louisiana, the weekend before Thanksgiving. They'll, of course, they have been promoting that already. If you look at Scraping the Coast Instagram, you'll see, again, that's underneath their umbrella, Custom Car Show Productions. That's Bayou Showdown. So much thanks to the fam there. I also want to thank for our outline, our fine friends over at Graphics Mafia. If you need stickers, decals, a little bit of design work, hit up Graphics Mafia, GRAPHIX Mafia.com. Instagram, they're also on TikTok, I believe, and Facebook. You can hit them up. Let Ryan or Buddy know what you need. Last year, they did all the stickers for Chad Luke's truck for SEMA. So how cool was that? And more on Chad Luke's truck a little bit later in this episode. So next up with Mike dropping, I will go through some of the normal updates that we have. Not going to go too in depth. I also wanted to mention that I am going to try to see about getting a friend that I met 4 years ago at Helltrack on. So since we got Sean from RAD BMX Builds, I kind of wanted to tie in some cool bike-themed stuff for this episode. And there's a guy that goes by Poor Boy Steev. He's on Instagram. He sells magazines. He is fully kind of engulfed in the whole BMX / freestyle bike culture. And like I said, I met him 4 years ago when I went out to Helltrack. So I want to talk a little bit about bikes with him if I can. And again, just going to try to make this a jam-packed episode. If you're a new listener, please smash the follow or subscribe icon, however you're listening to us. If you're on YouTube, hey, thank you. But just know that if you open Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcast, download Podbean, all of those major platforms, you can find OLP, also known as Our Lifestyle Podcast. So make sure you follow and or subscribe. Of course, like I said, if you're coming here for Sean, you're going to love the content that we've been doing, going on, 7-8 years of content, and half of that almost has been literally every single Friday without a Friday missed. But that's a few more things that we kind of have in store. The last episode recap, we kind of did an episode last week of keeping a pulse on the scene. We talked about East Tennessee Showdown. We talked about one of our favorite shows, Scraping the Coast. Go back and listen to it, and that would kick off a very good stretch for you to go back if you're a new listener. We do want to thank Lone Star Throwdown. If you are in the truck scene, Lone Star Throwdown every year in Conroe, Texas. It's going down the last weekend in February, and we're less than 30 days away from the pre-registration opening, typically capped at about 2,000 vehicles. It's mostly trucks, and we've continued to see additional bikes, bicycles, in with the displays and things like that. I'm super excited about the show. I pre-registered the last couple years. This year, I'm really hoping to have my Lincoln out there, and maybe a bike or two, right? So it'd be cool if you guys come out, even as spectators. You guys know that this show is like the biggest, baddest around. LoneStarThrowdown.com for more. From a general update perspective, the few things I'll mention this week is, number one, I mentioned Clerks 3 recently coming. I'm super excited to see Clerks 3 because going back, I love the first one. If you haven't seen it in a long time, you got to go watch it. And again, Mini Trucker / Mini Truckin magazine is mentioned in the movie. I said that on one of the recent flip-throughs on YouTube, so check it out. I'm, again, super excited for Clerks 3. I'm also excited for about a year down the road. We're less than a year now to the new Indiana Jones movie. I know some of you are probably scratching your head going, didn't like the last one. Well, listen, most people did not like the last Indiana Jones. Totally get it. I didn't mind it so much, but I understand there were some scenes like when Mutt was swinging on the vines and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, a little bit too far out there. But the new movie is, I have no doubt it's going to be awesome. I've been following very closely the kind of the developing story on it and all of the little, basically intel that's coming out of the filming. Of course, they've wrapped principal photography. James Mangold is directing it, which is awesome. Steven Spielberg is like, hey, we got to bring someone else in. This guy's 58 years old, and he's an American filmmaker. If you think about movies like Copland, Girl, Interrupted, Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma, The Wolverine, and Logan, those are the movies that are under his belt, and I'm super excited about it, but that's, again, a year from now. The other general update that I wanted to do was I wanted to mention, so I talked about Helltrack a minute ago. So 4 years ago, if you've been a long-time listener, I went to the event at Texplex in Midlow. That's short for Midlow. I can't even say it. For Midlow, Texas, right? And if you want to see my journey, I wasn't really, doing a lot of vlogging back at, in that time. I've gotten better with editing and I've gotten better with the content, but I still think it's a pretty solid watch. You could go on YouTube and type in Helltrack 2018. Probably going to be one of the first couple videos. I know Mongoose produced a few. for their riders and whatnot, which are super cool to watch. But you'll see ours from OLP, and I, had that prior engagement to go to Scrapin', which was the same weekend. So I went to the Helltrack event on day one, the VIP day, and man, it was a blast. So you'll see photos, kind of some behind-the-scenes stuff. I got a chance to just literally kind of live my dream, meeting Eddie Fiola, meeting Martin Apparito, Poor Boy Steev, who hopefully we'll have on this episode a few minutes, and just so many other kinfolk. I'd love to see more stuff, so you'll hear Sean later talk about an idea that he has to kind of do, a BMX theme type event. There's some across the nation. Bob Harrow's got one going on. We'll hit upon, but it just great time. Great memory. Many great memories from that. So if you want to check out kind of what some of the photos I took, flying out to Dallas, driving over there, I did it all solo, and then I left after that long day. And I drove overnight to Biloxi for Scraping the Coast. But that was kind of the commitment that I had. And in hindsight, I do wish I would have stayed the whole weekend because there's some friendships that I've made. The Christian Hollings Blazer guy that we've had on, RAD movie cars, those kind of relationships. And Poor Boy Steev, I've kept in contact and bought stuff from. All of that manifested from Helltrack in Midlow 4 years ago in June. So, check it out on YouTube. The general updates this week brought to you by Joey at Get Decked. If you've got a photo or artwork like what Sean's got with Rad BMX Builds, you could put that artwork on a skate deck. Hit up Joey at Get Decked on Facebook or Instagram. Just look up Get Decked. Send him a direct message. He'll do as minimum or low quantities as one. But if you've got a brand like what Sean does from Rad BMX, certainly it would be advantageous, if possible, to get some decks made. And maybe even if you don't ship them out, if you go to these different events and you're vending, definitely people love this kind of merch. So hit up Joey at Get Decked. We did the trivia with Mike a couple of minutes ago, but I want to shout out AccuAir. You guys know AccuAir for the plug-and-play seemingly applications that they have, and they've continued to roll out new products, and we often get people that say, man, are they back in business? The answer is yes. They're back. AccuAir.com, just how it sounds. They've got merchandise for sale. You can also go under AccuAir Life and go to Get Featured. If you've got AccuAir on your vehicle, you submit your information right there online. They'll tag you. They ask for your Instagram handle and the photographer Instagram handle as well, which I think is great. They always give photo credit. Huge shout out to AccuAir. Next, we got the scene updates, and I didn't save a whole bunch, but here's a couple from the Facebook, Instagram world. Scott Brunselmeyer, love his Mazda. It's one of my favorite out there. This guy has been on a tear. I don't know what Miggity Mike the Mayor is going to do, man, because Scott is killing it, repping Bonsai Cruisers, dancing bed / tilt bed, and so much more. But he's also recently shown off his new Switchbox, which is a DeLorean. So it's pretty awesome. Check it out, Scott Brunselmeyer on Facebook. He's out there. He doesn't stop. Here is David Magatti and others were announcing. So here it is, the newest finished piece, fresh out of the Naked City Pin Garage, and it's a Courtney Hollowell pin, or excuse me, not a pin. It's a coin. Your legacy lives on. So look up David Magatti if you're interested in that. Of course, the proceeds go to the Courtney Hollowell Foundation. Something else, David Magatti, safe and sound back from Gadsden. Had a fantastic weekend at Southern Tradition. Of course, that's in Canton, Georgia. We talked about it. He had the crew cab out there, the Nissan hard bodies on the rise. So tip of the cap to David. That was another post that I had saved. Speaking of road trips, our friend Matt Yarborough, a.k.a. Mini Truck Matt on YouTube, he's out there doing the thing, man. He's went on a multi-state, I think like 10-plus state road trip. And he's linked back up with the family. I think he's back up in Michigan, and he's driving the S10 the whole way. I know he's been doing a lot more content. So Mini Truck Matt, be safe out there and stay on the rise, brother. Joey Dilworth, we talked about him earlier with Get Deck, but he posted a lot of photos from Southern Tradition, and I tell you what, from the Nissan Hardbodies and the Toyota Minis and the Dimes, that Crew Cab F100, dude, a lot of cool stuff there. And we said it recently, Southern Tradition, fun show, Canton, Georgia. Get back out there next year in July if you can. Speaking of that, Jeff Kissick, he had a bunch of photos as well. The Nissan Titan Dually was there. Scott, Scotty the Body, even our big homie Brad, and our Brad with the S10. I know I was looking on StreetTrucksMag.com, and I saw all the winners listed there. And, of course, Brad won Best Interior, that big body custom interior. And I know Eddie Gordy, speaking of that, Southern Tradition didn't disappoint. He says, Cookies brought home a Best Truck Award, dude. So to him and Macy Gray, awesome. Love the new True Forged wheels, man. Sick stuff. And lastly, tip of the cap to Shane Andrews, recent guest. Of course, we've established that his truck is like next level, and the truck is all military themed with an amazing airbrushing and artwork on it. He had a blast, was awesome weekend, and he got best of show. So pretty cool stuff, man. Congratulations, Shane. Now, those are some of the scene updates this week. The last thing I'll say is the new Street Trucks magazine, August 2022, is hitting mailboxes now, and I would ask, please, many of you are mini truckers. Some of you have come here, again, to listen to Sean's audio or others, and my feedback to you is let's run the numbers up. Many of us were disappointed 8 years ago when Mini Truckin' Magazine went away. So Street Trucks now does a whole issue dedicated to mini trucks. Now, some of them have been featured in the past. I totally get that. I think I covered that last week or the week before. But this is our opportunity. With All Time Low magazine going away, this is our opportunity to try to get more features in Street Trucks, okay? Let's prove to Street Trucks and the management that minis are here to stay, and we want more mini trucks featured and or possibly one issue per year, maybe even more of mini trucks. So do yourself a favor, go out there to the newsstands, pick up some issues, maybe even subscribe. If you're not a subscriber already, it's a great book, and Street Trucks website, you can just Google it and you can subscribe there if you want. Scene updates this week brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing. You think you've seen it all from our scene, but you might be surprised if you go to garagegearclothing.com. They've got Garage Girl. They've got the kids' stuff on lock. They also have the guys squared away, whether it's a muscle car shirt, a dually, a sport truck, a mini truck, you name it. They've got it all. And guess what? They have free shipping on all US of A orders. garagegearclothing.com. Check it out. You might be surprised at the awesome merchandise they're selling. Next, we got show schedule updates, also known as the key show updates. And there are, as I mentioned, there are a lot of shows going on. I do want to fix or put one, a retraction out there. And I want to thank Chad Luke, one of our top listeners, and just a great guy in general. His truck is also featured in Street Trucks, and I'm so proud of this dude, man. I got a chance to ride in the truck. Just really overwhelmed at Mini Nats, one of our favorite shows in the country, and his truck, not only does he get, on the cover of All Time Low magazine, then he ends up, with this feature. He's on the Hammered Weekend Wear artwork, and he's just got a lot of success going on, and he had reached out to say, yo, ODB, I think you got the wrong date for Slamboree. I just heard you say it, and I need to fix it on the calendar. So I apologize, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to move it up. So basically, this weekend, many of you guys are going to be up in Waveland, Indiana for Camp and Drag. I've been there before, an amazing show. We love, love, love what they're doing. They're continuing to do. It's been 10 years since I've been there. So if you're going to Camp and Drag, have fun. Tell Bill and everyone we said what's up. 2 weeks from there, so the correction for Slamboree is it's not the first weekend in August. It's the last weekend in July. Okay, so all the NC members, there's going to be, I'm hearing 200 plus vehicles possibly But Slamboree Show on Facebook, you'll see it's July 29th, 30th, 31st, and of course, there's a lot more information out there. Many of you guys know of Slamboree. That is in Oklahoma. So if you go out to their Facebook, they have a post as recently as June 22nd with a bunch of information. Slamboree, just how it sounds. From there, 2 weeks away, you're going to have the Spark Show, which is the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th of August. The Spark Show, you can Google it. That's up in Sevierville, Tennessee. They won our mini truck, or they won our show of the year for 2021. They're great people, Dizzy and Adam, and it's going to be going down right up there in Sevierville, Tennessee. The same weekend, the Northwest Cruise to the Pines, and that's, of course, in the Northwest. So that's going on up there. The last show that I want to mention, the last weekend, rather, I'll mention, is a couple weeks after that, you're going to have Dropped and Destroyed, which is September 10th. And if you guys don't know, that's in Uniontown, Ohio. And then you have Static Nationals, which is in Rogersville, Tennessee. So that's the kind of the last weekend I want to talk about right now. If we're missing any dates, send me a message or email me, ourlifestylepodcast@gmail.com. I know a couple of people recently has said, yo, ODB, can you add to our calendar? And if I missed them or you don't see it on the calendar, let me know. Now, when I say that, if you go to ourlifestylepodcast.com on the left side, you can click on the official OLP show calendar and then tap on your phone where it says click here. And then you can subscribe to our calendar, which is where I read all of these dates from. Of course, it is totally free. The key show updates are brought to you by our family at the West Coast Influence. Believe it or not, there's a documentary-style film about our truck scene. It's available from minitruckfilm.com. Radar will personally ship those copies out. You can order the Blu-ray or the DVD. And if you've watched any of my recent YouTube flip-throughs of Mini Truckin Magazine, you'll know that I've been continuing to push this awesome documentary. Go out there, add it to your collection. It's affordable, and let Radar know that OLP sent you. All right, the podcast updates, there's not a lot to share. What I would ask, though, is if you get an opportunity and you listen to this episode, whether you're a new subscriber or you're old school listener, if you haven't taken the time on Apple Podcasts, please, it's kind of the main place where people consume podcasts. So whatever app you're in, try to leave a rating, 5-star. If you're on Apple Podcasts, click on Library, select OLP, and then scroll down and tap the 5 stars. If you want to go another step ahead, forward, you can also do that. And what I would ask that you do is you just write a review. I think we're at 271, so we certainly appreciate all that. It actually really helps us. It kind of puts us up there with some of the bigger automotive podcasts. And as you guys know, Mini Truckin is kind of a niche, but we talk about old school BMX as we are on this episode, plus so much more. The last thing that I have for you guys are the Airhead Nation updates, and this just is anything that we notice from folks that are involved in our truck scene and so on and so forth. And I do know our good friend Mark Zitzer, he had mentioned his sweet cousin Heidi had passed away at the young age of 34 years old. And she was born with Williams syndrome, which is very rare, he said. And he posted a photo of her. So may she rest in peace. And we're sorry for your loss, homie. I think that's it for this week. We want to thank Hammered Weekend Wear. I just mentioned them, but believe it or not, although we mentioned a lot of different companies, Hammered Weekend Wear just launched 2 new shirts, Code Red and Dig the Lowness. And I tell you what, if you're here because you like old school BMX, both of these shirts kind of tie into the awesome colors and themes that we all love of the 80s. Go out to HAMMERD, weekendwear.com, and show your support. Hit the homies up and order some merch. They've got new hats as well that they recently dropped. What we will try to do is what we got on deck before Sean is I am going to try to link up briefly with Ryan Morgan from Viair. They've got a new product. If we can't get the audio done this week, we'll run it next week. and then also Poor Boy Steev, who, if you're in the BMX community, more than likely you've heard of him. If not, you're going to enjoy it. Stay on the rise. We'll hit you next week with a best of episode with maybe a little bit of new audio. We'll see. Even if it's a best of, please make sure you tune in because, again, we sometimes will put also new audio in there as well. Have a safe weekend. Stay on the rise. And if you're at Camp and Drag, don't party too hard. We out to you. Peace. Yo, so as I mentioned just a minute ago, super excited before we get to Sean from RAD BMX Builds. Man, I met Steve a couple years, 4 years ago, and it's a pleasure to have Poor Boy Steev on, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, no problem, man. I'm so glad I met you 4 years ago in June at Helltrack, man. In my whole life, I never thought, growing up in the 80s, Steve, that I'd ever get a chance to, for a while, I never thought I'd get a chance to own RAD on, like, a DVD. But a lot of things have changed the past 4 or 5 years, and, man, it was cool to go out to that event, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Definitely. It was a bucket list I didn't know I had.
Yeah, I know. And then I met you up there. We were talking to Martin Operito and Eddie and some of the guys, and they were doing tricks on the bikes. And I thought to myself, man, like, even though it was hot as hell, man, like, and I'm from Florida, like, it was so hot. Like, I left there just like on cloud nine.
Yeah, when they scheduled that in the summer, and there, I used to live like 15, 20 minutes from there. And when they said when they were doing it, I was like, "Oh man,
wow!"
It was hotter than Helltrack for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to allow you briefly to just talk about. My understanding is you've been in the bikes for a long time. We've all kind of we have that passion and stuff, but you're hardcore. Steve, how did you get connected to bikes? Did you get one as a kid, and that was the kind of the gateway drug?
Yeah, I always liked my bike. I liked the freedom of riding. As I got older, I ended up I wanted a bigger bike. My dad bought me. He was like, "Oh, you need a bigger bike," and we went down the shop, and he ended up getting me a Schwinn 3-speed, Pee Wee Herman-y kind of bike, and I was like, eh. But I would always bomb hills with that, and I remember tying a toy making parachutes for the back so I could have a drag bike. I was always trying to stun it up on this stupid bike, and then I was like, I think I need a bigger bike, or I need a different bike. And we went to the store, and there was a Team Murray 24-inch cruiser, and I was like, that's the stuff. And then I thought, I got a BMX bike now, and then we just moved, and the realtor's son who helped my parents buy their house raced BMX. Mm-hmm. And we started talking bikes, and I was like, yeah, I got a BMX, and he was like, that's not a BMX. And then we started talking about that would have been 82, 83 maybe.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, I need one of these. And I got a Huffy Stu Thompson. I broke it. I got another Huffy Stu Thompson on warranty, broke it. My dad finally reluctantly said, okay, let's go look at proper BMX. Went to the bike shop. They had a Diamondback. They had a Diamondback that had come in with the wrong stickers and a couple misplaced parts. So I ended up getting a really nice Diamondback for a lot lower price. And I was hooked, and then raced a little on it, but it was always about jumping. And then that turned into freestyle, and then I was sold, and so I've been doing that, since early 80s.
Yeah, dude, it definitely is an addiction, and I remember in the culture, I talked with my co-host a couple times about this, but if you remember even Police Academy 3, I think it was, when Stacy Peralta directs the skateboard scene, but then they got the freestyle bikes, and we saw a little bit of that in the Pee Wee Herman movie, the team that had all the gear on and stuff. Those are some of the good memories I have, because as a kid, before even video game magazines were really out and burst on the scene, I was literally reading the magazines, and I would read them front to back, over and over again.
Yep.
And I would see the ads, and I'd see the guys with all the gear. And, my parents, I was lucky to have a bike. My parents were going to go spend a lot of money on, outfits and suits and all that stuff. But I tell you, it's etched in my mind. Although maybe I wasn't a team rider, or I never rode, even in competition, it, like you said earlier, it was something about the freedom of just being on the bike, man. And then when Rad comes out, and me being the age I was, like, man, it was like a perfect storm.
Yeah, for me it was, my friends were into it. I would have loved to be a skateboarder, but I just wasn't coordinated enough. I needed something to hold on to.
Yep.
But all my friends, it was skateboards, bikes, just that whole scene. And then I was into like toys and art, and I didn't ever want to grow up out of the kidness of stuff. And then all of a sudden I saw with BMX, especially with the magazines, that's why I'm so passionate about the magazines, is I saw art and culture and music and BMX,
advertising. Yep.
All these things that I was into they were together, and they were something. There was much more of a tremendous respect for artists and art, and the creativity that went into, the designs of the bikes and the graphics of the bikes and the skateboards in particular, and just that whole everything. I was like, these are my people.
Yep.
And so that just kind of created for me a lifelong passion of, I love the 80s. I love all things 80s. I'm a big into 80s toys. But I also like, that cultural stuff, and, everything from cartoons to, media, print stuff. But for me, it was BMX, and that's what, kind of fueled my passions, and that fueled my, eventually it would become my career, and but it was just all of that.
We're talking with Poor Boy Steev, and it's on Instagram, just how it sounds, Poor Boy and then Steev. Steve, how did you get? I wanted to ask you this, when I met you back at Helltrack, but like, it seems like you've gone by that name a long time. Is there any story behind that name, or is that something that's stuck from the BMX world?
That actually, around the time I went off to college, I had a design scholarship, went off to do that, and ended up, I think I was a semester into school or a year into school, and I dropped out, and I was living in my car and living on people's sofas, and people just started calling me Poor Boy. And so that was my nickname. And then I started doing t-shirts. I was doing stuff with music, and I was doing some stuff with some bands. And then I started kind of doing my own little hustle of, some Poor Boy kind of designs, that I'd set up at a merch table and try and make some food money for myself.
Yep.
But then I started kind of getting more, I was riding a little more. I was riding with guys that rode. And then the Poor Boy kind of went from just like friends in the music scene and friends who knew me to that became Poor Boy. And then I started, and then my designs kind of shifted into more BMX centric kind of designs. And then I was going to more BMX stuff. And then I was somewhere between Steve and Poor Boy Steev. And then I think it was my friends in BMX. The guy I really remember, it was like the Hoffman guys, or like, Jay Miron, some of the old, like the mid school guys. I just kind of was like, oh, that's Steve from Poor Boy, and then that turned into Poor Boy Steev because the name of my company kind of became it was Poor Boy. For lack, it was just made sense. Well, that's what they call me. That's what I'll do. So it was Poor Boy.
Cool.
And then over the years, it was just I was Poor Boy Steev. And then so when I got on Instagram and got on social media and got on people, I just was like, well, I'm Poor Boy Steev. Other people had done Poor Boy this or Poor Boy that. So I just said, I'm Poor Boy Steev. And then people knew who I was.
Yeah, they're like, oh, yeah.
And then, so guys from the 90s knew who I was from my business. It was Poor Boy Steev. And then it kind of turned into guys from like heroes of mine from the 80s or friends I knew who wrote, from the 80s. Then that kind of all of a sudden the older school stuff kicked in. And so now I have this, group of people that it's like a mix of 80s and 90s and a little bit of early 2000s.
Right on. Check out Poor Boy Steev, as I mentioned on Instagram. The other thing is, there's a lot of scams out there, but Poor Boy Steev is actually an artist, and if you look at his bio on Instagram, you'll see that he even does commissions and things like that. One of the things that I love that you do is you've got very affordable sticker packs, and I bought some things from you in the past. You've made custom characters like folks do. You've done many of the rad stuff. I got to pick up the Helltrack 3 sticker pack. I mean, you got some cool stuff. I love the Blob Ross. there's a lot of nods. If many of you guys like Rad, or you've come here to maybe listen to Sean from Rad BMX Builds, you can certainly check out Poor Boy Steev. I'm sure you know of him, but show him some love. Like, go order some merch. You got a lot of cool stuff out there.
Thanks.
Is it hard to wrap your mind around, like, where we came from where I came from, in the 80s, not really having enough money to even buy, like, a high-end bike, but now you fast forward to, like, 2022. And I'll talk with Sean a little bit about this, but the prices and how, like, old school BMX, like, is back, baby. I mean, it is just crazy. Some guys midlife crisis, others hardcore BMXers. But did you ever think it would get to where it's at, Steve?
If I think about it, if I step back and kind of think about it, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Because I mean, I said before, I love toys and action figure. Big Star Wars nerd. Star Wars hit me before BMX did, and that always kind of lingered in the background. So I was familiar with collectibles. I was familiar with a collecting market, and I would even say I was a recovering collector. So it makes sense that it happened to BMX. But for me, it was always just BMX. I mean, in the heat of it, I never thought of, that it would be collectible stuff, let alone like my old stuff, like the Poor Boy stuff would get crazy, or bike companies that I was involved with would get crazy. But yeah, if you just look at it today, it's kind of weird. It is definitely a mixed market. It's guys who are reliving their childhood. It's guys that are, like you said, having a midlife crisis. It's guys where I like to say some of it is guys that are like, it's cheap car collecting.
Yeah.
They can't afford a $100,000 Ford, but they'll blow $5,000 on a hutch. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Personally, I love the survivors. I love the stuff with stories. I love the stuff that was ridden way more than, the trailer stuff. But, it takes everything to make it a community.
Yep.
So I'd love to see more things happen where it's the riders, the collectors, the riders that collect, the team guys, I'd like to see more where it's a little bit of everybody coming together. Right now it's a little bit of, it's the riders, or it's the show guys, or it's the event guys, or it's it'd be nice to see some of that pulled together. But
yeah, when the listeners hear in a few minutes, and when they hear the conversation that I have with Sean from Rad BMX Builds, he's kind of got an idea on something they could do out there. Bob Harrow's got something going on. I think it just happened, or it's getting ready to happen in Southern California. But then I know R.L. Osborne, he's been pushing some stuff, a lot of YouTube content. We see Eddie and Martin, they're continuing to go out there and ride. We had Spring Fling here in Florida, and it's kind of the thing, but they kind of keep it more down low. It's not as advertised as it was, but I totally agree, man. I think there's definitely a market to get people together, because, I mean, when I went to Spring Fling a couple years ago, I met a couple people that had driven, like, literally, like, 5, 6, 7 states away. Like, I felt like I was at a mini truck show, because I was like, we'll drive 8, 10 hours, 15 hours, no problem.
Well, there's guys like, the last BMX Buckeye Bike Show in Dayton, Ohio. Mike Buff came out, so there was a big ride on Friday night. That was awesome. Old school guys came. We rode bikes. The next day there was a show, but there was guys from guys from California, guys from New York, it was definitely an everywhere kind of thing.
Yeah, there's an appetite for that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. On one hand, I hate it because there's parts I need and things I want that I'm like, I can't afford that. I'll never have one of those. And you're like, curse you, guy with way too much money.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, hey, whatever. Those guys are also asking me to draw stuff and do stuff, and they're helping support the sport. And so it like I said, it takes everybody. Yeah. I'm lucky to have the bikes that I have and the parts that I have, and I'm lucky to have the friends that I have and to be as involved as I am across multiple generations.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had met Old School BMX Freestyle on Instagram. I had met him at the Spring Fling event, and just a real cool guy. He's got a cool page, and it's kind of like that too in the mini trucks. There's some people that'll frown upon a guy that'll buy a truck and then he'll refresh some stuff and he'll have good success, and they're like, oh, where have you been? And I kind of look at it and say, man, it takes a community, like you said, of people to keep this thing going. And it was interesting. I think people will appreciate kind of what Sean says, because Sean has an approach on how he buys his bikes, and he puts them together and then he'll put a price, and he doesn't always even do it for the profit. There's a lot of guys out there. There's some culture vultures, I'm sure, but it blows my mind. Now, and my question that I always ask myself is, will it sustain? I almost think that it will, because you think about, like, I remember having one of the cable packages we had, there was a guy that was like the toy chaser guy. He had a TV show, right? And, talking about toys in the 80s and stuff. I mean, who would have thought, like, the toy business is huge. There's conventions everywhere, and there's stuff. So, BMX bikes, and with all of these old riders having YouTube channels / podcasts. I think Hollywood Mike Miranda's got one now too. There he goes out. He goes out again. There's Hollywood Mike Miranda takes a spill. But in all seriousness, like, it seems like it's hit a level where it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think just collectibles in general tend to hold their value because they don't get any younger, and there isn't more of them. It's weird. Like, there's not people really repopping VHS tapes but there's people repopping, grips and number plates and parts. So that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't see prices necessarily dropping. What I do see is people's ability right now. It's just straight up people's ability to get anything. I mean, I know my business has slowed tremendously, not because of a price is too much. It's just people are. I mean,
it's tough. Yeah.
It's not that it's not that the mini truck's any less cool. It's that the gas to go in it is more money, 10 times more. So, but I don't I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to back off anything. It's just maybe not going to have the fire poured, the gas poured on the fire that the last few years have been. But that's across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you on that. I want to just get your opinion. This might be a can of worms, so I don't want to open a can of worms, but you kind of hinted at it a second ago. I asked Sean the same question. What is your thought, right? It's a can of worms. What is your thought on, like, these bike companies re-releasing, let's say Mongoose goes, okay, we're going to do the scooter, we're going to do the Stranger Things bike, and then you can obviously insert many other examples there, some that I'm sure, that are getting ready to come out. Are you okay with that, or what's your thought on it?
What did he say?
Well, the listeners are going to have to stay tuned for that. He had a two-prong. He had a two-prong. His mindset changed a little bit. Like, in the beginning, he thought one thing, and then it's since changed. I'll leave it at that.
I think I would say there's two sides of it. For one is, if GT wants to do retro, like, I love what Haro's done. I like what GT is doing. I mean, my favorite bike is my 2016 Haro Lineage DMC Master. Looks like my old 86, rides like a new bike.
Yes.
Love that. They were I would say Haro was the leader in doing that. And then, GT's jumped on. Now there's a bunch of stuff coming with Redline and all that. I'm totally fine. If GT wants to make GT and do an old version of it, man, do it. It's yours. I think what chaps me a little sometimes is the guys that are just ripping off the companies to do their own. Like, I think you use the term culture vulture. Those guys that are just going like, well, I make that same thing, or nobody ever did, so I do that. I'm like, it just depends. I don't, who is it? Why is it? That definitely gets into more of a can of worms for me. Yeah. If it's guys that, they're just collectors and they're just making a buck and they're just bleeding the market and filling a niche, then, I've never been a huge fan of that. If it's guys that are doing, art and guys that are putting their spin on things, or if there's guys that are paying tribute to things, hey, do it. Have fun. That's what it's about. But in terms of, can you buy GT bars that are new that look like old? It's GT. Do it. That's fine. It gets a little more gray for me when you go, hey, I'm one of the original guys that I have an old bike and I'm just making you've got the guy who he wants to build his old childhood bike. That's what he can found. That's what he can afford. Man, that's awesome. Do it. Build your bike. I've got a couple, redo parts on a couple bikes of mine that it was just helpful and easier to get.
Yeah, and source and stuff. Here's the thing. We both like RAD, but one of the things I thought was ironic was like, so I might be against the grain on some on this. I kind of like that Bill Allen for a while was trying to kind of get his, he had this idea to come out, and I was like, okay, cool, because he does very good supporting that character and kind of supporting the fans, right? We like that, right? The RAD stuff. So when Bill Allen Bikes was kind of coming out, I was like, my interest was piqued. I was like, okay, cool. If someone could do like a 24, 26, 29 in that newer like Crew Jones type deal, like I'm like, man, this might be kind of cool, right? So when GT, they come out with a throwback celebrating, I guess, the 35th anniversary of RAD. I look at the bike and go, if it was free, I would, I'd like to have one. It's cool, right? I didn't get one, but I looked at it and said, they have some nods. The seat, they've got, the RAD font right there on the main, bike. They have Crew on it. But then I look at other things and go, it's got the black tires. It would have been cool to do this. It's red. It's on a chrome frame. And again, I know I'm nitpicking, and I don't like to I'm not downing the product. I think it's great. But sometimes I wonder if the right people are making the decisions, because I think if they just change things a little bit, they would make even more money, these big companies. So
yeah, well, some of that is manufacturing. Some of that is, it was a mongoose in the movie and it wasn't a mongoose. So do we make it look like a mongoose?
Right.
Or is it just our version of a RAD bike? So,
yeah,
there's a lot of people they wish it had been mongoose. They wish it had been Vans instead of Etnies. They wish it had been, I don't, in terms of from where RAD's coming from, they just want to get their stuff out there and make the money off of it. And where the companies are coming from, they want to make some money off of it, and they love it and they want to support it. Is it perfect? No, I don't know. Just don't buy it.
Yeah, and I have seen guys at shows on, I have a 29-inch bike, and I do really like riding it. And I've seen guys with I do like when GT comes out with some of those epic, iconic colors. A lot of that stuff that's etched in our minds. And to your point earlier, to be able to go, hey, I'm going to ride a 24, 26, and it's just like what my bike was. I get that same feeling. Now maybe I'm not going over dirt jumps and stuff nowadays, but I do think it's cool that bike stuff has gotten to the level that it has. That there's plenty out there for everyone. I mean, people are plucking NOS parts like no tomorrow, although expensive. But then you could also go to your local bike shop and get something that kind of reminds you of the old days. It just almost seems like there's something for everyone. Last comment I got on that was I did go all in on the Mongoose, and I bought the scooter. I kind of felt like I had to. I didn't get the Stranger Things bike, but I kind of thought, I want to get it. I think they did it right. Now, what was ironic, though, and this isn't a slight against those guys, but if you look at, the little scooter that's, in Walmart, right, that's a pink scooter, it's the same exact scooter that they re-released recently. It's just a different color. It's literally a couple of little pieces of hardware and stuff like that. But it's crazy how those colors could just go boom, oh my God, I got to buy it. I got to have this, And then you go on, Facebook Marketplace and go, oh, here's a $50 pink one that some girl rode 3 times. I could have had the same thing. But it's crazy how things are nowadays. So.
Yeah, I think you just saw it, you see people grow up and they can relive their childhood. And, I've got a neighbor down the street who loves looking at my Haro, and he wants a Haro, and he's going to go get a, 26 or 29, and he wants to pedal around the neighborhood on a bike that looks kind of like what he used to ride.
Yep.
And then there's some of the guys who, I would hope, I kind of stepped away for 5 years, and then when I came back to riding, got on a mountain bike, and that turned into a cruiser, and then that turned into a 22, and then that turned into a 20. So I would say for some guys, it's totally possible if you want to get back into BMX, to get back into BMX and to get down to BMX size and to be able to mess around with some tricks and to be able to get that balance back and to be able to have some fun. And at the same time, jump on a bigger one and go ride with your family. So it is nice that there's a little an array of offering right now. And so, I just encourage people to go pedal, get whatever you're going to get, but just go pedal and
Dude.
Don't be a butthead.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Blob Ross or whatever. Definitely check out Poor Boy, just how it sounds all together, and then Steev, Steev. It ends there. If you tap on Steve's bio, you can click the Linktree link, right? And you're going to see he's got a lot of cool stuff, right? So
you can go, and it's the same for my website. It's just poorboysteev.com.
Yeah, poorboysteev.com.
Poor Boy Steev will get you Facebook, Instagram, my website. Check it out. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever the guys say. And I don't know. It's fun having friends that ride. I love hearing everybody's comments. I love being inspired by everybody who's riding and building and collecting and just making it a positive thing. And I love guys like you that are so good at bridging the cultures of trucks and 80s and bikes and, the guys that are doing skateboarding in 80s and the guys that are doing toys in 80s and bike. I love that it's such a big, broad, vast community that I get to be a part of. And so thanks for letting me be a part of it.
No doubt. You're a good dude, man. Thanks for the good word. On Steve's website, you'll see a lot of nods to, like, Blob Ross was a nod in RAD, and you'll see other stuff like the Helltrack Event shirt. A lot of cool designs. I love the sticker packs, though, because, you get so much for your money. And there's a lot of cool little ones. You stick them on your shop refrigerator, toolbox, you name it. But dude, Steev, I know we don't get a chance to link up a lot. I know sometimes it's through a message. I bought a couple action figure custom ones you've done.
I got some new ones coming. Keep your eyes out.
Yeah. Turn on those post notifications because I'll try to get to them. I want to give a huge shout out. I know he's a listener too. And I'm guessing he's bought some of your stuff, but the 80s Garage. He's big curator. Big curator of 80s and of rad stuff. Probably the raddest rad collection in the world, arguably. But Steev, like I said, I wanted to reciprocate and say, hey, thanks for the good word. But you're a good dude. I know you're super passionate, and you keep the pedal stomped, and it seems like you're always out there having fun. You're kind of living your childhood every day, and thanks for what you do for the rad community, but also just in general for the bike stuff. You keep the stuff going, and go, if nothing else, guys, it's free. Go give Poor Boy Steev a follow. Steev, stay on the rise, as we always say, and let's link up soon again, brother.
Yeah, I'd love it. That'd be fun. Thanks.
All right, everyone. So as we go into the next interview, I want to remind everyone, Scraping the Coast every June, and then, of course, their next event, Custom Car Show Productions, is the weekend before Thanksgiving, Slidell, Louisiana. Stay on the rise, everyone. Enjoy this audio. We're going to roll in with Sean from RAD BMX Builds, and we're going to run the Vi Air audio next week. Thanks again, Steev.
Thank you.
Hey, as I mentioned, I'm super excited to sit down with Sean from RAD BMX, and we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. We'll get into the brand, but Sean, I just wanted to kind of welcome you to the podcast. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate that. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I've been following your page a while, and we'll definitely hit on it. Why don't you give a little bit of background about yourself? I know we're probably from maybe the same era. We like the same kind of stuff, but where'd you grow up? A little bit about yourself.
Totally. I'm 50 years old. I was born in Upland, California, but I grew up mostly in Orange County in Fullerton. And then right around the late 80s, my parents migrated out to Moreno Valley, California, because it was growing and they wanted to buy a new house. So they pulled me out of the middle of 10th grade, which is the worst time to pull a kid out of school.
Oh, wow.
And relocated me out to Moreno Valley. And so I had to finish high school out there. make new friends, which wasn't terrible because everyone out there was new because it was all new housing developments. But at the time, all I had was a BMX bike, and I turned 17 and I got my first car, which was a 81 Plymouth Arrow pickup truck.
Oh, wow.
Which is basically a Dodge D50 with different decals.
Yeah.
And
that's sick.
I was so excited because a guy at my school had a gloss black one with cookie cutter wheels on it. It was lowered.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do that to my truck. It's right when mini trucks started getting pretty popular, in the late 80s.
Yep.
So I was super hyped to get that truck. And 2 months later, I got a knock at the door at like 7 a.m. A little 10-year-old kid on a dirt bike had my wallet in his hand. He goes, "Is this yours?" I said, "Yeah, it was under the seat in my truck." "Found your truck up in the hills. It's stripped." And it got stolen that night, I guess. So, yeah, that really pissed me off. My truck was gone. So at that point, my parents aren't going to give me another one.
Yep.
So, I said forget it, and I ended up graduating high school by riding a moped around for transportation. And then and then joined the military at basically 18 and a half years old, I think I was, in 1990. And then from there, I took off into the military.
Yeah, how ironic, because when we had Brian McCormick on, from Truckin, Mini Truckin, and all these different brands, he was just getting out of the service kind of like maybe a couple years before that, and that's when he started landing at Truckin. So it is kind of crazy how all of that goes. Now, Moreno Valley is kind of east of Riverside, right? Kind of the greater, would that be considered the greater Los Angeles area?
Yeah, well, yes. Well, yeah. It goes like Los Angeles County, Riverside County, and Moreno Valley is within Riverside County the farther you go east.
Yep.
And so it is basically Riverside. It's just a town right off to the east of the city of Riverside. And it was a growing town then, but now it's pretty large. And we talked about Rezo a little bit off the air, and Rezo is held out there at Lake Paris, which is... Moreno Valley is literally right there just north of Lake Paris, and that's where I lived.
Man, dude, yeah, you were in the Mecca. It's funny because growing up a lot, I would hear the term, or we'd see it in the magazines like Bakersfield, and I always kind of thought of that as kind of the heart of mini trucking, but there's so many offshoots and areas out there, and, now my buddy Jeff, he's like in Riverside, and, he's with the Devious Customs and all that stuff.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I've known Jeff since he was in 10th grade.
Dude, isn't that ironic, man? That's freaking awesome.
Jeff moved in with me when he moved to California. He moved in with me.
Oh, really? Wow, man. Yeah, he told
me I can tell you all about Jeff.
Yeah, he told me the story when he moved from, was it Montana or somewhere up there?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. He's going to kill me. He's going to be like, wait, you don't remember. But dude, no, I know, and he's... think about he built his brand 20 years ago officially, but I mean he's been doing the mini truck stuff forever.
When we get into it, I'll tell you all about how that started.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to kind of pick your brain at this because being a fan of like ET and obviously the bikes and all that stuff, I follow a lot of California stuff, and there's a guy 80s Life, we had him on, Kurt Crucial. He does a lot of movie site locations and stuff. But when growing up in the area that you did, like, I guess it probably was just like normal life. But like now, when you've gotten older, do you ever think like, man, like the movies were filmed like down the road from us,
So yeah, when I went off to the military, I was kind of detached from California the rest of my adulthood until recently when I moved back, and now I live in Newport Beach. I am going down memory lane since I've been back here because now I realize when I grew up, like you talked about, it didn't mean much to me then. Yep. Now the nostalgic part of it, I drive around and go, that was filmed there. Yeah. Or I meet up with Martin and we talk about the movie Rad, or Eddie Fiola and we talk about the movie Rad, and where did you film that scene at the beach? And that was filmed right there, and so on and so forth. And it all starts to come alive.
That's
it's
cool.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, it's crazy because I do want to talk. We'll get to talking about Eddie and Martin and those guys. Man, we got so much awesome stuff to talk about. But the era that you grew up in, kind of what you're explaining, going away into the military, and thank you for your service, in circa 1990. Did you mentioned the bikes? Like, do you remember? Like for me, when I was younger, I didn't have the nicest bike. I had a couple hand-me-downs, and I did make it to a Mongoose, which is why I love Mongoose so much. But do you recall like kids having like the super expensive bikes, maybe that you couldn't record and that or afford, and that's like etched in your mind?
100%. So I started off on a Schwinn Stingray that we converted into a BMX bike. because that's all we had is like twin Stingrays with banana seats when BMX wasn't even really called BMX yet. And you wanted your bicycles to almost mimic dirt bikes back then. We're talking like late 70s and starts to evolve into the 80s. And then I remember seeing my first actual BMX bike, and it was a 79 Mongoose. And I was like, what is that? But it was heavy, like heavier than my Schwinn. It was a tank. But it looked so rad. It had blue tires, blue seat, and I still remember that bike to this day. And then I ran across a kid that had a red line, and I was like, what is that? And now I'm starting to realize my bike's junk. And these other kids that have parents that are willing to spend the money are buying super rad bikes. Now I start going to bike shops, and I start to see these other bikes, and I start really wanting a legitimate BMX bike. So it took quite a while, and I think my dad ended up getting me a red line for my first legitimate BMX bike. And it got stolen right in front of an arcade, like most kids had their bikes stolen. And I was just crushed. I remember walking home crying like that was my first real cool bike, and I know I'm not going to get another one. It's just they're not going to buy me a second one because I'm so stupid I didn't lock it up. And I didn't get one. I had to buy my next bike, and I saved up and got a S&E Racing PK Ripper in baby blue.
Wow.
And to me, that bike was really the one that is my most nostalgic. That's my grail bike to me. And I had that bike. I ended up racing that bike. I ended up cracking that bike and found, because they're aluminum, I had to find someone that could weld it. And they welded it, and I still rode it with a big ugly weld on it. And I have photos of me on my Instagram page riding that bike from back late 80s. And when I joined the military, I sold it for like $100. I'm such an idiot, but I sold it. And then, but today in my collection, I have a 1983 PK Ripper it was a new old stock frame fork set that I found, which is unheard of. And I built it, and it's so beautiful and so perfect. And I know now, being older, heavier, and I know now the bike is an 83 and it's 2022. I'm not going to ride that bike. I don't want it to break. If I broke one back then, weighing almost nothing, I'm going to break it immediately now. So I built it just to add to my collection, and that is my grail bike, and I have it today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Sure.
And what blows my mind, and I got to, being that you're so much into the stuff, and by the way, you can follow Sean. It's RAD BMX Builds, which we'll talk more about on Instagram. When I look back at on vintagemongoose.com, you can go look at the old catalogs and stuff. And and in the, I was born in 78. So like in the early 80s, even before RAD, I remember going to a bike shop and seeing the Mongoose, and they had like the duffel bags, and they had, that little logo kind of stuck out at me. Does it ever blow your mind on how much the nostalgia has come back and the prices and stuff are on all this?
So for me, I remember walking into bike shops and seeing glass countertop cabinets full of anodized BMX race parts and things like that. I can even smell the 87 dyno comp all black one on top of the rack when I walked into a bike shop one day. Like, these things that stick with you are mind blowing to me. And I still remember those like it happened yesterday. And I remember that bike being like $299 and thinking, I can never afford that. Like, back then, that was a ton of money. And if you find an 87 dyno Pro Comp right now, it's $3,000. Like, what? It's absolutely insane. So yeah, these bikes have gone up, and sadly, platforms like eBay have made people put them on there at astronomical prices, and they'll sit there, and honestly, you shouldn't be getting that much for them, but people will have that nostalgic connection to it. And we have jobs now, most of us, and we have a savings account, some of us, and now they'll buy at a ridiculous price that piece of childhood memory and put it in a collection.
Yeah, and it's hard for stuff like my buddy Tony's got a bunch of bikes. You've got a bunch. I've got a handful, the ones I always kind of wanted, but I got in before the craziness. But see, it's tough because we're all kind of fiends when it comes to these bikes, and you'll come across the guy that maybe, has a good paying job, and he's got a Ferrari, or he's got a, nice high-end daily driver or whatever. Not probably a Ferrari, but something. But then they'll just go, I always wanted to have an 86, and they don't mind, I guess, paying $5 and $6 and $10 grand for some of these bikes. It's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I've seen a BMX bike go for $40,000.
Wow.
That person, I'm not going to tell you who it was, but as a legitimate source, that person sold a bike for $40,000, and it was a one-of-one collector bike, and the guy that bought it also bought another super iconic BMX bike and paid pretty close. It's a guy that did very well in the tech industry, is out there buying these super high-end collectible one-of-one kind of competition bikes. So yeah, they go from anywhere from almost nothing up to $40,000. That's the highest price I've ever heard of a transaction occurring. But, I've seen fully, original 87 Pro Freestyle Tours go for $10,000, $5,000. It all depends on condition and parts, you know?
Yeah,
the prices are nuts.
Exactly, and I know you saw the one on eBay, and it was sold, and then it resurfaced on eBay not even too long ago, but it was like the 87 pinkish GT, and it was in the box still. And it was crazy. I guess it was like a Christmas gift that was just never opened. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, how? How?
They are crazy enough. They're still out there. Like bike shops close down and put bikes in storage units. And then those storage units turn over to another family member. And then they end up, it's the craziest things that are still out there. And I hear all these stories like, I found this bike at a thrift shop. I found this bike at a yard sale. Those things never happen to me.
Yeah,
how these people find these things, I don't get it. Because I'm out there, I'm very well connected with a lot of bike people, and people approach my page all the time trying to sell me bikes, but it's never anything like that.
Yeah.
It's usually junk.
Yeah, it is.
I need some of that luck.
Yeah, old school BMX freestyle on Instagram. I met him, and he'll he was posting for a while, and I was like, damn it, I'm gonna have to mute his account, joking with myself. But he's like, yep, pulled this one out of the dumpster, and I'm like, dude, this has got to be staged, man. There's no way.
Yeah, unheard of. I don't get it.
Yep.
I'm thinking some of those are staged for content purposes. But I mean, I could be honest with you and your listeners, like all my bikes, I have to buy them. I pay for them. I build them. And then I sometimes will sell them. I don't sell everything that I build for sure. I am a builder collector, not a bike shop. So I build bikes for me, for content. And if I love the bike, I keep it. I keep it in my own personal collection. But if I have a bike that I don't want to keep and I've used it enough for content where I'm done with it, I'll sell it to keep this movement moving forward, basically to fund the next build.
Sure.
So I'm not trying to pull the last penny out of someone's pocket. I don't sell my bikes for ridiculous prices. And there are some people like that, but I think, as a business model, that's not a great approach, because I want people to come back and buy a second bike or a third bike from me. And I have customers that have done that several times, 4 bikes now for one guy. And it's because it's fair, I'm not trying to rip you off, but at the same time, I'm not doing this to put the roof over my head. I'm retired from the military. That's a paycheck for me. I just need to make enough money to keep my business going forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't need to make $2,000 on a bike, and I'm not even really charging for my time when I build the bikes, which isn't the greatest, smartest business move. But
right.
I know what it took me financially to buy the bike, buy the parts, and so on and so forth, and then I will sell it with minimal profit.
Yep.
And when I sell my bikes, I don't do the negotiation thing now. There's so much back and forth with that, and I interact with so many people daily. I wouldn't be able to keep it straight. So I only sell them through my website at radbmxbuilds.com. It's the only way I sell them. Just like any other online thing that you would go buy, there's no haggle. You just go in there, you either buy it or you don't. If you don't want it, don't buy it and move on. Yep. Someone will buy it, and they usually sell. So I mean, you can be rest assured by doing that too. It's all very secure, and you're not getting these shady, scammy people.
Yep.
Like, it's a legitimate website. This is a legitimate business with an LLC. This is a legitimate, safe place for you to go buy a bike if you want it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking with you, Sean, it reminded me a few years back, my buddy Tony and I, he has a trailer, kind of a rear trailer hitch option on the 65 Lincoln. We had a couple of our bikes on the back, and we go up to this local little hangout. Dude, it was cool, man. And this guy comes by and he goes, oh, man, you like freestyle bikes? And Tony had his Haro there. And he goes, yeah. And the guy's like, yeah, I got a bunch of bikes and I got a few things for sale. But he didn't really sell stuff a lot, but he had like his side, like little storage unit that he's got some stuff for sale. So anyways, he goes, well, meet me over there later. So we go over there and he opens it up. And I was like, man, there's not, okay. And then you look and you go, okay, yeah, there's some stuff. And Tony ends up buying a bunch and I only bought one thing. Well, so this guy's like telling us about all these bikes, and I'm going, dude, like, if I believe everything he's saying, I'm going, dude, I said, what would you value your collection? Like, like $100,000, dude. Like, I mean, you're talking about. He goes, I'd value my collection right now at $500,000, and I said, hold on.
Oh man, come on.
So this guy apparently was going to like Indianapolis, some big bike show up there, and he supposedly bought like a bike from either Martin or Eddie, and he was talking about, and I go, well, what kind of business are you in? He goes, well, I do remodels of bathrooms. I'm in construction and stuff. I go, okay. But here was the crazy thing, and I never got a chance to go to his place yet. He claims that he doesn't have the room for all these bikes. So what he does is after he puts them together, he takes them apart and he puts them back in boxes and he just labels them. And I was like, dude, I could never do that, man. Because you kind of want to have them displayed. You want to see them.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment. You
Right.
just want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You're not going to. But that seems very odd. That's an odd story.
Yeah, it was, and I go, okay. But the cool thing is with the BMX stuff, like we've all met like people across the world and online, and I just never thought like you think back to the old days and people go, oh well, one day this is going to be like nostalgic, and as the 80s and 90s are very nostalgic. So it's almost like people have kind of gotten to a certain age where maybe they have a little bit more disposable income and they do want to relive and tap into their childhood a little bit.
Yeah, it's ironic you bring that up because when I separated from the military, I started watching all these how to adjust and how to move forward with your life after a whole career kind of thing, trying to figure out where I wanted to go and how I wanted to do things. And I came across this one article that said that they found that a lot of people after serving a real long time in the military, when they get out, will revert back to a time prior to when they came in.
Ah.
And I was like, cool. So now I'm 50 years old, living 17-year-old me. That's why I'm so into the BMX bikes now, right?
Right.
So now I'm mentally 17 with some money in the bank. I can do what I want. So what do? I buy a bunch of BMX bikes and skateboards, and now I'm living at the beach and going surfing. Like I am 17-year-old me with a better budget, basically.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I want to talk more about the bike stuff. I do want to tap in though briefly to, you talked a little bit about the Aero. When you grew up in that era of when you kind of described, how did you get involved in? Because my understanding is you did go to some mini truck shows as well. How did you get sucked into that? Did you see like a truck cruising and you started hanging out with guys, or what happened?
Man, I got to tell you, I was hooked the second I saw my first mini truck. It didn't take anything to push me over that edge. And as soon as I saw one, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I remember it vividly. It was a black Dodge D50 that I mentioned earlier on cookie cutters playing Too Short in my high school parking lot. And that thing hit so hard, that bass instantly almost broke my neck. I turned around and went, what was that? And saw the perfect version of what I wanted my truck to look like. And I didn't run. I sprinted toward that truck and introduced myself to that guy. And he ended up living like 3 blocks from me. Uh-huh. We became friends. I went over there all the time. And it just the smell of the mini truck, the tweed interior and the air freshener hanging and the wink mirror. And I was obsessed.
Yep.
And then, every time I found out, if you ever remember I don't know if you remember it or not, I was in some of the mini truck magazines. There was a place called Happy's, and they sold mini truck stuff. And it was in Moreno Valley at the time. And I would go over there, even though I didn't have a mini truck because it got ripped off. Uh-huh. And I would look at the double windshield wipers with the little fins on them. And I would look at the antenna with the little lightning bolt squiggle in it. And I was just like, oh. It's like the limousine antenna with the little curls, and then it had the little bend in it. And just all those neon colors. And I was like, when I get my next mini truck, what I'm doing is building an inventory list in my head of what I'm going to do once I get my next truck. And so, I started going to a couple shows. I went to Rezo. I have family out in the Colorado River, Lake Havasu area. So when it was held at La Paz fairgrounds up there on the Colorado River, my grandparents' place was literally half a mile from that show.
Wow.
So I'd go to my grandparents' place and then go to the show literally all day long. Not a mini truck owner at the time, but I would go to the show and just freak out. I have so many photos.
Wow.
That you have to go get developed, right? And now they're sitting in a shoebox somewhere. I'm talking thousands of photos of trucks and stuff from that era that I need to probably find and pull out.
Yeah, I'll help you scan them.
Yeah. There's some great ones too. I'm not a photographer by any means, but I walked around with that camera like a madman.
Click. Yep.
Yeah. I probably should have been a freelancer for mini trucking at that point.
Yeah, really. That's
so
cool.
as soon as I had the opportunity to buy a car again, it was immediately, I already knew it was going to be a mini truck. And I knew it was going to be a slammed mini truck before I even knew what truck I was going to buy. So I was hooked.
Yeah, and the Arrow, that was that I'm guessing that was a regular cab truck, right? You had?
Yeah. So here's the lame part. It was a regular cab long bed.
Ah, okay.
And I hated that it was a long bed, but it's like your dad bought it for you. Here's a truck. And I was like, cool. And it was an automatic too. So, I mean, it wasn't optioned perfectly, but I didn't care. You know, I was 17 at the time, ready to just go crazy. So the first thing I bought was a wink mirror, and I bought the tailgate net and ditched the tailgate, which I thought was cool at the time. Now it's stupid. Should just shade the tailgate, right? But so I threw the tailgate in the garage and then put a little net in the back and just started doing little things to try to customize things. Pulled some dash pieces off and painted them. Everything a kid with absolutely no money would do to a truck, I did to that truck.
Yeah, and that's how it's funny because we recently had Alan Paradise on by the time this one airs, and you know we talked a lot about how the mini truck was affordable for a parent to maybe either hand down or buy even new for parents that could afford it. But how to your point, it was like it was easy. You get some rattle can, you get some Flexstone, and you do your damn thing, and you have a good time, man.
God, the Flexstone was so good.
Yeah, it was good times. So fast forward, you're kind of in that same era. So how do you end up meeting Jeff Davey? I mean, that's crazy.
Okay, so I joined the military, and my first assignment was Ellsworth Air Force Base outside of Rapid City, South Dakota.
Okay.
And I get there without a vehicle. I spend a whole winter there. I got there like January, like right very beginning of January, in the worst blizzard you can imagine. So you basically have to sit it out and wait for it to thaw. And then my roommate had a brand new 91 GMC Sonoma. He goes, hey, I'm going to take leave, go on vacation, go back home to Florida. You can drive my truck. That's why I'm gone. I was like, sweet. So I drove his truck and I went, this truck's perfect. 5-speed, 4-cylinder, short cab, short bed. Mm-hmm. Just epic truck. Very affordable. And I thought, this is the truck I want. So I drove his brand new truck over to the GMC dealer where he bought it. And they had a white one on the lot, but it had blue interior. But I was like, well, that's okay. I'll live with it. Mm-hmm. And I bought it right there. And so they helped me bring his truck back to the base. And so when I went to pick him up from the airport, I picked him up in my truck. And I was like, thanks for letting me drive your truck, man. I really appreciate it. But I hated the color, so I painted it. It was literally identical to his truck. And he's like, you're messing with me, right? And I went over there and I opened the door and he's like, oh my God, you did not. And I said, yep. You couldn't tell the difference other than the color of this truck.
Right.
And until he got in it, then went, wait a minute. This has blue interior. I think his had like a burgundy interior or something. He's like, what the heck? I said, I had to buy one. Your truck was so perfect, I had to buy one. He's like, you know how dumb this is? We're roommates. Now we have identical trucks. People are going to talk, I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So then I start cruising around downtown, and Mount Rushmore Road in the middle of Rapid City was a big cruise street for locals back then.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to go cruise my truck. What the heck? Who cares? So I got a stereo system installed. I bought some rims, and I start cruising up and down the street. And there's this stupid high school kid in like a 63 short bed, and it's just slammed to the ground. I went, I need to be friends with that guy. And Jeff Davey at the time was probably in the 11th grade, I think, going to Stevens High School. And we started hanging out, and then we had other friends hanging out, and then we all kind of created our own little club, and we all started working on each other's trucks. Corey Dunlap, Jeff Davey, John Leffler, like a whole bunch of us, and just started hanging out on the weekends, drinking beer, and sometimes I had to buy the beer because they weren't all of age. Jeff Davey's parents had a place up on Highway 44, and it had like a little market and a little gas pump situation and a hotel. And we'd go up there and get gas and steal the beer and just go have a good time on the weekends, like mini truckers.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to get parts up there. There were no local places that sold any cool parts. Everything was bought out of a magazine. There weren't a lot of fabricators around. You could hack an exhaust off or shorten a shifter, whatever, kind of stuff like that. But there was no shaving tailgates or anything really. That wasn't very easily accessible there at that time. So what we did is we had a friend, Marshall. And Marshall, if you ever listen to this, I'm so sorry, but Marshall's a bigger guy. And we put Marshall standing on the back bumper of the truck, and we'd heat the leaf springs, and try to get that thing to sink until it's basically flat.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone stand on the front bumper, and then we cut the coils as much as you could. Then you heat those up till there's literally no suspension. And then I would drive my GMC Sonoma around with basically no suspension in the middle of South Dakota. And it was like sliding a brick down the concrete. And that was my daily.
Wow. That is a small world, man. And it all just stems back to trucks, man. I mean, that's insanity.
It's a lifestyle for sure. It's not just that, it's family, and I'm still friends. All those guys I just named, I'm still friends with today.
Yep.
I can't say that for a lot of military friends I have, but those guys in that mini truck scene back then are like your core nucleus of friends, and they're still, I can call them up any time of day, any day. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Alan Paradise talked a little bit about, because, he's into writing for movies and TV shows, and he said how we talked about Lords of Dogtown, and he kind of talked a little bit about, like, he's like, really, he I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing it's never going to happen. I don't mean from his standpoint, but he kind of talked about trying to do a documentary, kind of like what our friend Radar did with the West Coast Influence, but do something where it could go to a film festival and things like that about mini trucks. And it's crazy if you think about like those relationships you had, but Jeff has built his empire at Devious Customs, and Mike Finnegan's went on, and even Ryan Fringlinghouse for West Coast Customs. These guys have went on and built these major businesses, and it would be interesting to see if someone could take and leverage and springboard off of even what Radar did, and have something go to the even a higher level, because it's like mini truckers, it wasn't just that fad. There's so many relationships, like you said, that are still thriving because of those 80s and 90s era.
Absolutely. And it's such a large family too. Like, there was East Coast, there was West Coast, there was the Midwest. There's many truckers from coast to coast here.
Yep.
And it's not even here. It's completely global. When people started selling all their mini trucks, and those rad trucks started going to Japan, now it's Japan, and now it's, Australia has its own movement of mini trucks. And it is just absolutely crazy how many are out there. Now I live in Southern California. I am constantly staring out the window waiting to see an old school mini truck go by. Like, where are they all? They're hidden in people's garages right now, and they're not daily driven like they used to be, for sure. Now they come out for shows, and then they sit under a tarp in a garage. But I mean, I remember growing up around here, just seeing them constantly go down the streets. And in the 90s, we'll get into the details later, but I lived back in here for a little while in the 90s, and I would see like local finesse meet up here in Orange County. And I would drive through the parking lot looking at the trucks. And they even had a Volkswagen Scirocco. It was red with 2 rear axles on it. Damn. And I was like, who fabricated that? Like, why? It's like, why? 1, but 2, that's rad. That's why you did it, because it's different and it's rad. So just to see a tandem axle Volkswagen Scirocco blew my mind.
Dude,
that's unheard of. But yeah, that was a good time.
Our friend Paul Morton had shared a story, and it was this guy, Rick McCloskey, and apparently, he's a photographer, and he put out, or is getting ready to put out, a book that's called like Summer of 72, and it's going to like document the cruising on Van Nuys, and it was a lot of young people and Datsun pickups, and all of that. And it's crazy, the car culture, car, truck, whatever, that the automotive culture that's in Southern California. It's just mind-blowing. Now, before we talk more about bikes, being that you kind of talk about your age now and the bike stuff and all of that striving, could you ever see yourself, Sean, like getting a mini truck, or do you just keep the focus and you go, man, listen, I got enough going on?
I do have a lot going on, but I'm not going to lie. I would really like to have a square body S10 with two awesome BMX bikes in the bed.
Oh,
that's kind of goals for me.
Yeah, buddy.
So Corey Dunlop already beat me to it. He just built, in remembrance of his son that passed away, built a convertible square body S10 ground effects. He bought one of my bikes and put it in the bed of it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And now he just picked up an old square body S10 Blazer, target top, ground effects. He's just living my dream life right now. So I've talked to all these guys, Jeff Davey and all of them. I said, what we ought to do is a reunion, and all of us show up with an old school mini truck to Rapid City, South Dakota, and cruise Mount Rushmore Road one more time. Like, just find a truck, and I don't care what it looks like, how budget it is or over the top it is, just show up and we cruise again. And that's still kind of something I want to do. So yeah, I can see myself getting another mini truck. My wife, not so much.
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way to buy it through the business to promote my business and use it as a tax write-off. That might be the only way I can get it under.
Yeah, I like that.
Get her on board. Put RAD BMX Builds on the side or something. I don't care.
Yeah, hey man, I love it. Well,
whatever it takes.
Yeah, 4 years ago when I went to the Helltrack event, I met a guy that's in Cali. You may have came across him at some point, but he's a firefighter. And he has, I think he changed the name of it, but basically he had built the replica Christian Hollings Blazer from RAD. Yeah. So you know him and know of his stuff.
He's got a vet too.
Yeah, the vet. I know, and I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome. Now I just searched because I thought I knew the name Corey Dunlap, and we have 105 mutual friends. So I looked at the Blazer and I'm like, okay, and now I see the S10 and I'm like, yep, I see exactly what you're saying.
You see the white, so it's a white truck with green drips coming down it. He sends a lot of Facebook messages privately to me of videos and stuff of it. He's been building it for a while. His son was in the service and passed away, and so he built that as a tribute truck for his son. So there's a lot of emotion, that was a frame-off build. That literally was from the ground up.
Wow.
And I'm talking every nut and bolt. This isn't just an externally pretty truck. This is every bit of Corey's heart and soul went into this build. And then he just picked up the Blazer recently. I don't know what he's got planned for it yet, but Corey's got quite the car collection. Jeff Davies built a couple of his cars, and like a Chevy Colorado that Corey has, then a car. I can't remember what kind of car it was. It was like a blue and white older car. I'm forgetting off the top of my head what it was. Yeah. But Corey's been around a long time. Him and Jeff are really close. And Corey and I used to live right across the hall from each other in an apartment complex in South Dakota. And when both of our ex-wives were, being crazy, we would disappear together and go drink beers and hang out and hide out.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I'll have to share some of his stuff as well. Very cool. So transitioning back into the bike stuff, talk to us a little bit about your brand. Like, a listener's out there and they're going, okay, well, I don't know Sean, but I've kind of seen some of his Instagram posts, this and that. I'd love to hear kind of maybe how it started and just the backstory a little bit on what you're doing.
Sure. So here's how it started, and this is kind of funny because I didn't ever have a plan to become a business. It forced its hand on me, really. I had an Instagram page like any other middle-aged guy. It had like kids and food and traveling and sunsets or whatever dumb pictures you put on Instagram. And then I was like, well, I went to my aunt's house and found a Haro Group 1 frame half buried in her backyard. It was like her kids. I was like, can I have this? She goes, sure. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just kind of build this bike up. And it wasn't the greatest bike to build up. And I did it anyway, and I built it. And I went, you know what? I had a lot of fun doing that. So then I went on eBay, and I found a 91 GT Performer frame and fork set for $60. This is before the bike world kicked off into hyperdrive. Mm-hmm. So I bought it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to build that. And I built it, and my wife goes, I love that. And I said, you can have it. I'll build another bike. So I built, now you see where it's going, right? And then so I built a dyno comp, and I was like, cool, now we both have really sick, like freestyle kind of bikes. And we're riding them around, and I posted photos of them on Instagram. A guy reached out to me that owns a clothing company on Rodeo Drive and said, hey, I want to buy both your bikes. I said, no, bro, they're not for sale.
Really?
Well, I want to give you some good money for them. If you sell them to me, I'd like to use them in my clothing company as kind of a promotional piece and, have models sit on them, stuff like that. And then he gave me an offer, and at the time was a lot of money for a BMX bike. He offered me $1,000 a piece for those bikes. And I thought, man, I lived in Phoenix at the time. And I said, I will drive him to California if you give me $1,000 a piece. So I did. I mean, I have friends and family in California. I said, what the heck? I'll make a trip of it. Threw him on the back of my car, road tripped out here, sold it to him, took the cash, went back. And I thought, that was pretty awesome. And now I got $2,000, so I'm going to buy another bike. And so it just started that way, right? And then I start realizing all these people contacting me on Instagram. And I quickly realized my personal page becomes a bike page. And now I'm just posting bike stuff. I build a red line and I sell it. I build another bike, sell it. So I have to go back now and delete all my personal stuff and change the name of my page from Sean whatever to, I went through a few different names, honestly, before I landed on RAD BMX Builds. So it's an evolution like anything else. And then once I retired, we bought a big 40-foot motorhome and started traveling around the U.S. And we traveled full-time in our RV, and I was constantly on the hunt for bikes all across the country, back and forth, Canada, and I was finding bikes and parts everywhere. Well, here's where it goes crazy. I don't have anywhere to put them, so I'm mailing them to my mom that lives in Phoenix. and she has a storage unit right next to mine and has a key to my storage unit.
Oh boy.
So I'd mail them to my mom, and she'd put them in my storage unit. This went on for about a year, and my wife had no idea. I was just doing it kind of under the table, buy something on eBay, have it shipped to mom. I wouldn't say anything. I figured she wouldn't notice if it's under a certain dollar amount. She'd just let it go.
Sure.
I didn't realize how much stuff I bought over a year. Like, in my mind, I've completely built at least 6 bikes by the parts I've been sending off to my mom. So we get back to Phoenix, and we're visiting the parents. I went, I'm going to head over to the storage unit. My wife goes, I'll go with you. I go, no, it's fine.
You
I'll
better
do
stay
it.
home.
I was like, please, God, no, don't go with me. That's like the worst case scenario, right? It's like finding out you have a girlfriend.
You have a girlfriend in the storage.
So I was like, I can't get out of it. She's adamant about going. And I go, maybe it's not bad. So we get there. I unlock the door. My wife rolls it up. And my mom is the worst, in the middle of the storage unit, and she put everything in trash bags. It's like 6 feet tall, 8 feet diameter. It is massive pile of parts. And like my jaw even hit the ground, like, oh my God, that can't all be bike parts. My wife goes, what is all that? Because last time she saw a storage unit, almost had nothing in it. We sold our house completely furnished. There was almost nothing in this unit.
Right.
And now it's
You got
full.
no cover now.
And I start looking, I go, those are all bike parts. She goes, those aren't bike parts. She goes, that's inventory. Tomorrow you're opening a business. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I don't know anything about opening a business. I've never owned my own company.
Yep.
But you know what's brilliant about that is now I'm starting off a business with a lot of inventory. And I said, okay, but she had one rule. There is no more using money from our personal account. You now need to finance yourself, your own addiction, right?
Yep.
So it's like you're a junkie, but now you just got to fund it yourself. So that's what I did. I built all the bikes out of those parts, and then I sold some, bought some more, sold, and just start working your way up. And now I'm probably sitting on a collection of about 30 complete bikes. And I've sold about 100 bikes this year. Yeah.
Wow, 100. Dang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nutty. And I'm really slowing down. We'll get to where I'm going with this company, but I can't keep that pace up, honestly. It's out of control.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, go to radbmxbuilds.com, and again, Rad BMX Builds on Instagram. Give them a follow.
Thank you.
Sean, you've been about 30 years, my understanding, was in the service, so thanks again, man. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, you can also click on buy merchandise, and what I like, obviously being a fan of the movie Rad, my dad brought it home on VHS when I was a kid, and I was hooked. I mean, I was kind of in that age group where I just couldn't get enough, and I love the naming convention of it. As we kind of piggyback some of the side stories off the business and whatnot, I think it's amazing when 4 years ago, I was thankful to go to the Rad Helltrack event. And I went for the one day, and I had kind of some other obligations, so I didn't get a chance to stay the whole weekend. And I wish in hindsight that I did, because, I'm a big fan of the movie. But how ironic is it, though, now, like, as you've gotten older, and like you said a little bit ago, now you're kind of reliving a little bit of your late, adulthood in terms of teens and whatnot. You kind of forged relationships with, like, Martin Aparicio and Eddie Fiola and stuff. How awesome is that? How did that even come about?
I ask myself that all the time, honestly. It's like, I'm just some dude. I'm a middle-aged white male just sitting here playing with bicycles, but it's morphed into an open door opportunity for me. My Instagram really blew up. It's one of the larger bike Instagram accounts.
Yep.
And it is completely self-made, and it's taken years to get here. It doesn't grow to that level overnight. And I've been at this for 7-8 years now. And really, I recently started a YouTube channel, and it's Rad BMX Builds. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because I'm trying to grow that and go that direction. But really what that channel did for me is open these doors of opportunity and moving to Newport Beach, California, because now I'm located at the heart of BMX freestyle, the 80s, all that iconic. All those people live here still. Like, I've got to meet Gary Turner and go to Gary Turner's shop, and hung out with Eddie several times now and done an interview with Eddie. I can see Martin almost every day of the week. He's always riding his bike right up the street from where I live. So the opportunity of living here is endless. And, I went over to Race Inc. the other day and hung out with Toby Henderson and Art and just walked through their warehouse and did a project for them. I just built a bike, which I haven't even revealed yet. I've just been showing sneak peeks on Instagram. So there's just opportunity after opportunity. And we talked a little bit today, right before I went on this podcast. I was down at Haro, and I was with John Bolchins, and he's an ex-pro rider, general manager of Haro. he's showing me a bike that hasn't even been released yet for Bob Harrow's birthday ride out this Saturday. And just all these opportunities are being dumped in my lap, and I couldn't be more thankful for it, honestly. But you do have to go out there and kind of put yourself in the middle of it. It's not going to come to you entirely. And I think the Instagram account and the YouTube channel has really got that opportunity available for me.
Yeah, and you're running with the opportunity. Look, I mean, you did almost 3 decades in the service. You're a well-spoken dude. You know, you got the passion. I think, like, that's the thing that I've always learned and appreciated about, you know, whether someone's into Hot Wheels or I'm into Lincolns or mini trucks. Like, when you see someone that's so passionate about something, you kind of go, man, like, this guy's got it, and, like, run with it. Because, you know, we want, like, I love seeing someone like you, like, become successful at something that you love, man.
Yeah, that's really that's what makes it fun and not work, right?
Yeah.
When you love something like that, and I made a career out of the military, but I didn't love every day of it. I can be perfectly honest with you. That's a hard career to love every single day. But doing this, even though it is technically a job, I'm the owner. I can take a day off. I can work 14 hours straight. Whatever I want to do, I do. And my wife said the other day, she goes, honestly, I have to be real honest. You've worked harder after retirement doing this bike thing than I ever seen you work. And I've worked 16-hour days and stuff like that and beat myself into the ground. But this is a passion.
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, what really makes it for me is not the money. My motto in my company is building memories. And when I can give somebody a bike that brings back those nostalgic memories of when they were a kid, I mean, that makes it all so worth it to me. You know, people reach out like, your videos really brought me back to X, Y, and Z memories and such good times that people had at a certain period of time for them. Is so awesome. It's so rewarding for me to be able to do that. And I've donated a couple bikes to people, and just people that wouldn't be able to afford to build a bike, I will give them, you know, I've given them maybe a frame set to start off with, or stickers or pads or whatever. Now I can't keep just giving stuff away for free. That's not good for me. But I certainly try to help people when I can, like my kid, Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm pretty fortunate, so it's like I'm not just gonna be all about me and just try to keep moving forward. It's bring other people up around me too, you know, and help people out that can't really have all these opportunities. And so yeah, you know, like my friend's son had a birthday, and I built him a custom 16-inch pit bike and just gave it to him. You know, that kid will remember that bike like I remember that Schwinn Stingray. You know, you know that you're giving someone a lifelong memory, and you're just giving them a bike. It's as simple as that. So it changes people's lives.
You nailed it in this world where, I mean, look, I'm not going to harp on, you know, because I love social media. I love a lot of this stuff, but I'll tell you, you know, even my son being 16, you know, it's hard to get kids off of, this is no slight against kids, right? But I mean, you know, when we were kids, look, I barely had a Game Boy that didn't even have a light in it. Like at night, you had to have a light on it, right? So now, like, they do have, you know, computers and iPads and all that stuff. So it is cool to see kids kind of get out there and stuff. But the thing that I thought was so cool was when I got a chance to briefly talk with Martin and Eddie. You know, I didn't know these guys like some other people. I knew them from the magazines. I knew them because I became a big fan of RAD and stuff. But, you know, I tell you what, I've seen a lot of videos where these guys have went around the world and they do these ride-outs, and you know about a lot of this stuff. Those guys, I tell you what, are so humble. I mean, they'll sign stuff. Oh, sign my bike, sign my shirt. They're like, you know, I think that they realize, like, man, they're like the upper echelon. I mean, I really mean that with all due respect of this like bike community. And there's a lot of other good guys. Don't get me wrong, but I tell you, they're good people, aren't they, man?
Yeah, there's a half a dozen of them that have just literally changed lives, and they didn't realize they were doing it then. They were young kids, you know. They were just out there so thankful that they were being paid to go ride their bike, right? But while they were doing that, other kids were looking at them like these guys were kings, you know, and it was motivating those kids, and it was giving these kids memories that they have today. Because I get messages in my DMs all the time like, oh man, that video, I met Eddie in 1980, whatever, and he signed my whatever the story is. But just these photographs of me with Eddie or Eddie signing my bike brings back a floodgate of memories for a million people, and it's just wild. Yeah. I just made a video like 11 days ago of the 87 GT Performer that I just restored, and I went and showed it to Eddie, and he signed it. I just made an 11-second reel on Instagram, and that thing hit like 1.5 million views already. Wow. And that just shows me that, one, holy crap, that's crazy they had that many views, but at the same time, that's how many people that saw it were touched by something like that. How many that hadn't even seen it yet? These guys,
Yeah.
their global reach is insane. It's really
Yeah.
crazy. Their social media presence is tiny, though. It's crazy. I feel like they're missing the boat now. They were really crushing it then, but they could still touch so many lives. But maybe they're kind of reeling it back a bit. But now with social media, you could really reach out to these people, and they would be so successful at it.
Yeah, and at the Helltrack event, when I briefly talked to Martin, I thought to myself, like, I watched a lot of the old, and I still do, watch the old videos that people upload from their, they finally, pull into their computer and they upload the VHS stuff and it's like you see like how good he was, right, and how good he still is. But I love watching him on Instagram because I mentioned to him something about HB Tuesdays, and there was this one account where I think there's a lady, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's so and so," and I go, "Yeah, I see her always take videos and photos of you and stuff." But I tell you what, you'd be hard-pressed to find a guy that's so passionate that how good he was 40 years ago. And look, he's still out there, dude. Like, he rides like there's no tomorrow.
57 years old and rides every single day. He puts in the time day in and day out. It's his diehard. That's all he knows in life. He is a machine.
And I really hope that someone's listening. We just had, like I said, Alan Paradise on, and he, helps with documentaries and stuff. And he knew some of the people tied into the whole Lords of Dogtown and stuff. But man, like we saw the Amazing Tony Hawk documentary recently on HBO. Like Martin and or Eddie or both of them together. Like I want these guys to get the love now. Get their flowers now, because I mean these guys are all time greats, man.
Yeah, I want to ask you. I've been pondering this idea and talking to some other bike builders on Instagram. I've been thinking about getting together a bunch of these bike builders on Instagram, and we're all getting into one place. Let's say California.
Yep.
Get them all to come here to California and get together and do like a Instagram live video of all of us, and bring in like Eddie or Martin or Gary Turner, have some special guests, and record it all, of course, and do some sort. The reason I think Instagram Live would be a good idea is then we get real-time interaction and questions from people.
Yep.
Even run multiple platform Instagram Lives, so you get a barrage. Also for us, it's good cross-pollination of accounts where people can follow the other people that they aren't. Yeah. And I thought, man, it'd be great to get all of us together, and we can talk about our thoughts on the bikes and the direction this is going. Like every fad has its highs and lows, Are we at a peak right now because these prices seem like we are? Is it middle? Like if you look at the analytics, my major group of followers is middle-aged men. It's guys our age, because those were the influences when we were teenagers, were these bikes, and now we can buy them and now we're enjoying them. So when we become 15, 20 years older, that fad might disappear again, you know? So unless someone brings it back.
Yeah, I follow a lot of the movie site location guys like the Adam the Woo and Grim Life and all these guys, and they recently, four or five of them recently got together in California, and they just kind of floated around, and they all do, a lot of times it's the same movie, but like Grim Life is really good about like going, dude, like dissecting and going, okay, this was the exact angle and stuff. But I kind of like your approach and your idea there, because it's like you're getting together like-minded people with a certain passion, and it's like we've saw something in Florida was called Spring Fling, and they kind of do it, they kind of don't. They tried to unadvertise it because I don't want to say it was just younger kids, but there were certain people that were kind of causing a challenge, and it's in a really St. Augustine's a really kind of affluent area, and there's a lot of money there, and people didn't like some of the stuff. So. But bottom line is, like, the guys with Planet BMX and they brought in some of these talents and stuff like that. Like, I could almost envision that, like, over, like you said, on the West Coast. And they have some stuff, I'm sure. But, I mean, that would be a cool idea, man.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. But, you got to realize, me as a business owner in this industry now, there's an end date, right? I can't see this being a successful business in 10, 15 years unless I change direction and you start to evolve with the whatever's in demand at the time. So like the bike building was in such high demand, 2020, 2021, bikes were sold out everywhere. So the guys that were selling bikes online were doing very well. I was selling bikes before I could even finish building them. People were trying to buy them off me. And kind of they still are. I just posted a frame set the other day and someone was like, how much? I'm like, man, can I at least build the bike first? You're
like, come on.
I would like to enjoy that part. I'd like to actually build it myself. So people are still chomping at the bit to buy these bikes, but I know that that's not going to be a thing at a certain period of time from now in the future. So I have to change my company's direction, with whatever the demand is at the time. But as a hobbyist or a collector builder, I'm still going to do that kind of stuff on the side if there's a bike that I want to add to my collection, or a bike that I just think is too cool to let sit there and not get built. That happens too. I'll see a bike and go, that's just a shame that's not built, and I'll buy it and build it.
Yep.
So those kind of things will happen.
Yeah, and when I think about, I follow some accounts like where these guys, as in like Japan, they love, they've got their own style, but they'll mimic a lot of the American ways, whether, they'll set up their little storage units that looks like an American garage or BMX and even mini trucks. And I remember I bought the Kuwahara, not the current one they're doing with the ET. I bought the one from about 4 or 5 years ago from Flight BMX, and I thought to myself,
26-inch?
No, well, here's the thing. I got the 20-inch.
Nice.
I got a throwback one, and I got the black and gold one because I'm not the biggest. Okay, I like the ET bike, but like those aren't my favorite colors. So, but I thought,
either.
Yeah. So I thought to myself, like, okay, well, let's say that was 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, and you kind of go, well, like what you just said a second ago. Well, it's kind of maybe hitting its peak, but I almost think that if you do it right with the merchandise and some of the stuff you're doing with the number plates and the pads, like you're kind of forging some of those, like you can almost build it, in my opinion, in a way that like eventually, I mean, you never know, you might have your own 29-inch bike or whatever,
Right.
So,
yeah, and that's something I have in my back pocket that I'm trying to eventually get to, is maybe the idea of my own frame set with and it'd be sold online, right? So maybe like a pull down menu, blue components, gold components, red components, and then it's kind of a build your own bike kind of thing on the website, and then I get the order and build the bike and ship it to you kind of thing.
Yep.
That's where I'd probably like to end up, my whole own brand at some point. But also now that I've gotten into more of the social media stuff, I want to be more of a content creator with this stuff, using the bikes as the product. And that's what I'm really enjoying right now, is I'm really enjoying the filming, the editing, and the posting of photos and stuff like that. It's a lot more enjoyable than wrenching in a garage in the summertime, busting your knuckles all the time. At 50, that beats on you after a while. I think yesterday I shipped off 4 bikes, and at the end of the day I was done. Yeah, I was exhausted packing up 4 bikes and shipping them off.
Yeah, there's a special way to pack them and all that. Yep.
Yeah, you got to break them down, pack them up, and I don't want them to get banged up. So I really put a lot of effort into packing bikes the right way, and making sure that I've seen UPS deliver bikes to me, and it's horrifying. So I want to make sure they can withstand whatever they do to them, and the bike doesn't get damaged. I put a lot of heart and love into these builds, and I don't want them to get damaged on the other end for sure.
Yeah, and when you think about like what we're talking, it makes me think. I remember for a while I had the channel, and I haven't seen it in a while, but there's like a guy that's a toy guy, and he has a TV show, and he, he's always on the hunt, and he gets a phone call, and some of it's for the TV show, whatever. But you could even say the same thing about toys. You could be like, yeah, toys, and this and that. And I know BMX bikes are maybe a little bit more niche market, but like with toys, I mean, who would have ever thought, like, they're having these conventions, and like, I'm a big G.I. Joe fan. I don't have all, I don't collect all the stuff now, but like, I'll see prices on stuff like the little, in the box, $450, $500, and the box all scuffed up and everything. It's crazy, the longevity of the toys and what people, and I sometimes wonder, will that still be around in 20 years? I guess so.
You know what? That's an excellent point. I hadn't thought about it in that aspect, but you're absolutely right. It could be something like that, and again, that's why I built a collection, and I'm going to hang on to that sucker as long as I can. So I have about 30 bikes sitting around that they don't even see daylight, and I know people freak out that I say it, but you know what? I'm one guy, I can't ride all these bikes at once, so I rotate through them. But these are bikes I don't plan on selling. So when I post photos of like my CW Phase 1, the lightning bolt frame, I'm not going to sell that bike. You can't get that bike. You can't replace that bike. I'm not going to sell it because I would regret it immediately. So when you see bikes like that on my page and it doesn't say for sale, it's because it's not.
Yeah.
If I'm selling a bike, the first thing it'll say under the picture, which no one reads anything under the pictures, right? I know. But it'll say for sale if it's for sale. If it doesn't, it's not. It's that simple.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's one thing I want to make the most clear to everybody is I post photos for content, not because I'm trying to sell it. So everything you see is not for sale, and I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. When I go to YouTube and I type in RAD BMX Builds, you mentioned kind of your channel and stuff, and I've been trying to, up the watch minutes on your channel too, because I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff. I like the videos even when you kind of show like, hey, this is how I clean my bikes, And to me, some people forget that even though that could be a basic concept, I've told my friend this. My friend's got 4K this and all this high-end equipment and stuff, and I go, John, that's fantastic, but people want the content. You can have a damn flip phone with the camera, take a damn video and post it, and people want it. Talk to us a little bit about like how you come up with a concept to go, you know what, I'm going to do a video today or tomorrow.
Absolutely. That's a great thing to talk about. My wife, she has a YouTube channel as well, and we do things completely different. I control my world, she controls hers. I do all my filming with GoPros. I have 2 GoPro 10s that I use, and I have another GoPro, an older one that I use. And all my footage is just using a GoPro because it's so easy to use and manipulate and attach to a bike and move around. And I can carry multiple GoPros instead of these nice, expensive, high-end vlogging cameras.
Yep.
That if you're riding a bike would be very awkward, and if you dropped it, very costly, right? For me, the GoPros seem to work out pretty well. And you can get them wet, whatever. It just seems to be a great thing to use for BMX. So the bike cleaning video, I didn't come up with that concept for that video. Monza Bike Company actually reached out to me and said, hey, we offer direction on how to maintain Chrome on our website, but we want to get that message across to our viewers. Would you be interested in making a YouTube video about how to maintain the Chrome? I said, I don't have one of your bikes in Chrome. If you send me one, I can make a video. And they did. They sent me a bike, which was amazing. I put the bike together. I rode it over at Sheep Hills. I got some footage. If you watched that video, you saw me riding around in the dirt, going over the jumps. And I'm 50. I'm not doing a tabletop or a backflip, but I try to get as dirty as I can in Southern California. It doesn't rain here, so we don't get mud puddles or anything. And I'm not going to throw it in the ocean, but I rode it around the dirt, and then I used the steps that they provide through their company on how to maintain Chrome. And then I gave a little insight from my experience as well into the video on how I maintain Chrome. And the video is a pretty well all-encompassing video on how to maintain a Chrome bike, especially in austere environments. Like I have a lot of salt in the air here because I'm real close to the ocean. So that's something that I got to think about, with metal and stuff, how to really try to keep that rust away and how to maintain that. And people might not consider stuff like that.
Sure.
So, conditions will vary greatly, whether you live near the beach or you live in Phoenix, Arizona. They're totally different environments. So, yeah, I thought it was kind of a fun video to make. Not all videos do so well, but I did okay. And I like doing how-to videos. I think it's a lot of fun. And I'm by no means a know-it-all. I don't know everything about bikes. I've been working on bikes my whole life, but I learn something every day. I went to Haro today and learned a half a dozen new things. So I am a sponge for knowledge, but I certainly don't pretend to know everything. But it was a fun video to make for them for sure. And how do I come up with content? Honestly, it's not easy sometimes. But then when it rains, it pours, and I have like 5 videos worth of ideas. And currently, I'm only doing 1 video a week. So I got to write them down or I'll forget. And then I have 5 weeks worth of videos to film. So I haven't run out of ideas yet. And sometimes opportunities present themselves. This week's video, if you don't mind me talking about it.
Please.
I'm going to drop a bomb this Friday's video. The other day, I was talking to Art, who's a general manager over at Race Inc., and they have these new rear dropout savers. And he says, did you get a set of those from me? And I said, no. He goes, come on over. I'll give you a set. So I go on over. They're only about 30 minutes up the road. And I walk in, and Toby Henderson, the owner, so American BMX Company and Cook Brothers and Race Inc. and Box Components, they're all under one roof. It's all one company kind of thing. All under the different brands. So anyway, I'm talking to Toby, and he's like, hey, we're just BSing about the bike show in Carson. And he says, would you be interested in doing a video about these dropout things? I said, honestly, Toby, no. I mean, it's a great product, and I'd rather just buy it because there's a lot of time and effort that go into YouTube videos. A lot of people don't realize making a 15-minute video takes 8 hours of my time for a 15-minute with editing and filming and all the music, and it just goes on and on. So I said, no, really, it's not really worth that much effort. I don't mean to be a jerk, but 8 hours for a $50 part just doesn't make sense. So he says, oh, well, how about another video on something else? And we now have another thing we're going to do a video on later. But when he left, Art says, I have a way to make you do a video on this dropout saver. And I said, let's hear it. He pulled out a bubblegum pink RA26 race ink frame, bubblegum pink.
Wow.
I'm a sucker for that. I mean, my company colors are like that baby blue and pink color. And I said, man, I've been wanting to build a pink bike for years, and that color is absolutely perfect. But I had to turn him down and say, man, that would cost me $1,500 in parts to build, easy. And he says, what if I let you pick out any part you want from the warehouse to build this bike? How do you say no to that? You're like a 5-year-old at KB Toys now, you know? I was like, oh my gosh. So
right.
grabbed a cardboard box and ran through there like a crazy person and filled the box up full of every part I can find that I wanted, and walked out with the frame and almost every major component that I needed to build a bike. Rushed home. I had a set of rims here already. I had to buy a pair of handlebars because I prefer the taller BMX bars on a cruiser bike, not the cruiser bars. Mm-hmm. Just a preference, and I bought a few other little parts. So I don't have much money into it, but I built this bike, made a YouTube video about it, and it'll be promoting their dropout armor for it. But I basically built the whole bike to promote that little product. And that's such a rad opportunity. Like, that doesn't, who am I for that to happen to? It just blew my mind, right? And now I get to keep this insanely awesome bike. Am I going to sell it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You have to stay tuned for that. But this bike you'll get to see for the first time this Friday on my YouTube channel. I haven't posted a full photo of it yet. I'm waiting till after the video drops.
Yeah, for sure. We'll share the hell out of it. And that's the kind of good opportunity and unique stuff that comes up. Although you and I might not find a bike in a dumpster, you still kind of had that opportunity, and they were able to kind of, twist your arm a little bit. But, for them, it's kind of a little bit of a write-off potentially. Hey, mark down the parts you got, and then boom.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, you scratch your back, we'll scratch ours, and I definitely like that. We're a lot in the same space, because for me on the Our Lifestyle Podcast YouTube channel, it took me forever to get to 1,000 subscribers, right? And then every other day I look and I'm just like, man, I got to get the 4,000 minutes watch, to get to that monetization.
Yes.
Because, like if you can start, even if a check comes in and it's $2 in a month, right? I'm going to be excited because it's going to give me even more motivation to go, you know what? I am going to film this and I'm going to put a little bit extra effort into it. I loved your video. One of your first ones, I think, was revealing my secrets, how to find old
That's
school.
my first video.
Yeah. 14,000 views. Congrats, man.
Thanks. That was my very first video. Talk about awkward. I just watched it the other day. I always want to go back and see where I started from. So I went back and watched it. I was like, God, it's so cringy. But I mean, just watching myself is cringy, right? But
I know what you mean.
I want to see where I started, where I'm going, and it's nice to look back on that. But yeah, that was a fun video to make, and YouTube does promote your very first video, so it does get a little promotion kick there. So that probably helps with views. But it keeps going because I found out, I think I've done well over 100 videos, probably 120 YouTube videos at this point.
Uh-huh.
And I've discovered what videos do well and which ones don't. Anything that shows like a peek into a personal space, like my personal collection, what's in my garage, like those type of titles seem to do very well. People inherently are a little bit nosy to want to see behind the curtain, right?
Sure.
It's just the way we are. So anything titled, and I don't really want to clickbait people. I'm not that clickbaity, but you show them my private collection. You show them what, secret thing racing cat, whatever, and they'll want to see that. But if it's like, hey, shop talk, I just wanted to catch people up on things I was doing, they do terribly. People are like, I don't want to just sit there and stare at you and listen to you talk.
Yeah.
Thanks. That kind of hurts my feelings, but I guess we'll move on from that. So you learn what does well and what doesn't, and people just want to kind of peel back the onion and see what the layers are back there. And behind the scenes kind of stuff seems to do really well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Something also that I wanted to tie into Eddie, because I want to go back. I have not watched your Eddie Fiola interview yet. I added it to my playlist today, so I'll tell people check that one out. I love the little, you did a good job, I thought, with the thumbnail when you said, does GTO Eddie money? Because, you want to kind of bring them into some of the things, right, that you're going to talk about. But this blew my mind. So when we first started the podcast, we started with merch, and it was too early. We were like a month in, and then we didn't do merch for like a couple years. Actually, like 3-4 years. And I said, I want to get into merch. So, we pair up with Graphic Disorder, and they've just done fantastic stuff for us with their artwork. Well, we come out swinging, and we did Mike Dominguez's on our first shirt, our first main shirt.
Yes.
We have Dominguez, and what we did is we did the tilt bed, so the back we basically paid for two artworks we paid for, right? So long story short, Eddie, it was like in the last 6 months or 8 months, they had gotten together at this place in California, and I'm drawing a blank on the name. It's like kind of like a museum, but it's not Radwood. It's something along those lines.
Woodward.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
So they get together, and Eddie posts a photo of Mike, which I met Mike Dominguez at Spring Fling. He was so cool, real quiet, like super down to earth. So I was going to try to give Mike one of the shirts, and Mike goes, he goes, I already got one. My buddy bought me one. I was thinking, man, one of my shirts. I grew up seeing
insane.
you and you own it. Well, then when they got together in the last 6 months or whatever, Eddie posts a photo, and Mike Dominguez is wearing our shirt.
Oh,
and I was like,
that is epic.
I was like, dude, and again, you and I, we're not out here to make money on this or whatever. We got to do what we got to do, but. To just be a small town kid from Land O'Lakes that grew up riding hand-me-down bikes, I was like, we made something that someone was like, damn, that's pretty cool. And that's kind of some of the feedback you get with what you do, because you're bringing back those memories. And to me, man, it's hard to put a dollar amount on the memories you can bring back, man.
100%. Yeah. This has been happening to me lately. Exactly what you're talking about. It's starting to come around to where I'm seeing stuff that I'm putting out. And it is it pulls at the heartstrings, someone will send me a photo of them wearing RAD BMX Builds shirt or hat or a sticker on their bike that they bought, or just some sort of merch that they'd purchased. And it makes me feel so good. And then I went to that big bike show, the BMX Society bike show in Carson, California, a couple weeks ago. And I'm just a regular guy out there with a GoPro. I look like any other person on the street.
Yep.
People were coming up to me at the bike show going, "Are you RAD BMX Builds? Can I get a picture with you?" And
that's awesome.
My friend that was with me, I've known since junior high. He's not into BMX at all, but we've known each other since junior high. This happened to me a dozen times, and I even signed a few things. I signed my name. These people don't even know what my name is. And I signed my name on their stuff, and my friend goes, "I've known you since the 8th grade. Who are you? What is happening?"
That's awesome, isn't it?
I think I made it.
Yeah, you're like,
how
I made
crazy.
Oh, man.
That was the weirdest feeling, and I felt so just accomplished, not in a cocky way, but wow, all my efforts really made an impact somewhere, and that made me feel really good about it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
So I was just humbled and honored completely.
That's
it was a really
cool.
good time. And it's happened a few times since. I was getting a haircut. This is when I very first started my YouTube channel. I had 300 subscribers. I was getting a haircut 2 blocks from my house, and this guy comes in, walks in the door, and he goes, "You're that guy with the YouTube channel." And I about broke my neck. I said, "What?" And he goes, "I watched your channel. It's like a BMX thing." And the barber goes, "You have a YouTube channel?" I go, "Kinda." Not really. I mean, I kind of started one. And the guy that walked in said, "Put it on the TV." And I said, "Oh, God, no, don't do that." The guy has a 72-inch TV. It's ridiculous.
8K.
You can feel you can feel the heat come off of it. And the guy goes, "Okay, I'll bring it up." I was like, "Oh no, just cut my hair, please. This is embarrassing." So he brings it up, and now they're watching my videos. My haircut turned into a 90-minute haircut while they watched RAD BMX Builds videos.
You're like, "I'm not tipping you extra."
Yeah, it's just get me out of here. I'm so embarrassed.
That's freaking
so
awesome.
Yeah, it's really wild, when that happens.
Well,
but it's fun too.
Yeah, and one quick thing that I'll point out is that when I started doing the podcast and going to shows and doing these little videos and stuff, there's always, I think, people that don't do any of it, they look at it and go, "Oh, well, this," I've heard people say about me, I've always wanted to get into going, "Dude, I'll do freaking voiceovers. I'd love to do that." It's one reason I started the podcast. I was like, man, let me try to open some doors. But, there's people like, "Oh, he's got a stupid voice," or "He's got this." So it took me a little while to weed out a lot of that stuff. And, like you said, you nor I, we're not famous people, but I can understand how a famous person deals with just people that are just constantly going, on social media, and this person's an idiot, and they said this and said that, and I had to basically just ignore that noise,
100%. I'm learning that, I can get confrontational, and I need to not do that on social media.
Yeah.
I'm just being in the military that long, you don't let someone say something to you and you not say something back. So I'm okay with doing that. So I need to not do it on social media. And And if I've done it to you, I should apologize. But at the same time, like, I never write negative stuff to people. Like, I would not go out of my way on a social media platform to write something negative. I'm one of those that grew up, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say it or scroll on it. Like, you don't need to sit there and write out a book how crappy you think that thing is or whatever. So people that do that, honestly, on my page, if I see that, I just instantly block them. 99% of the time, I used to go look at their page first before I commented, and they're not even followers.
Yep.
So there are people that went on to a picture that you posted that don't even follow you, that just wanted to talk some crazy smack for no reason because they know nothing about it. And I'm just like, and blocked. So I must have blocked 1,000 people this last year that just talk madness for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, now honestly, now that the account's grown a little bit, and I don't mean to overlook people that actually have legitimate comments, but there are so many comments, it's hard to read them all, honestly.
Yeah, I had to find, when you go on YouTube, you go into the YouTube studio area, and then there's as you know, there's the comment section, and it kind of lets you now filter like ones I haven't responded to. But yeah, you could see why a big company has to have a whole social media team.
That's right. And I'm getting there to where I'm going to consider sometime soon someone to run my Instagram page for me, because it takes so much of my time. And when I'm trying to film for YouTube and balance that Instagram account, it's full time for me all day, every day.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and again, that's why I don't sell through Instagram, because I would have to full time do Instagram, and I just don't want to do that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, people just think I screw around on my phone, like, oh, you don't really do anything, you're retired, what do you do all day? Wow, this is a full time job.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. That's crazy.
It really is.
What are your thoughts on these re-release of bikes, right? So to me, when Tony, my buddy Tony Boss Bowler, and I, when we went to Spring Fling a couple years ago, I rode my quote Crew Jones tribute bike, and man, I was on that 20-inch bike for it felt like an hour, and I woke up the next day and I was like, man, I feel like wrecked, man. Like I felt like really weird. So so now, like, you see, like with GT, and you see these epic colors and all that stuff coming back, and they're on the bigger bikes. What's your thought, whether it's Kuwahara doing a 20 or it's GT doing a 26 or 29 or 24? What's your thoughts on the re-release of bikes? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad?
So when they first started doing that, I hated it, honestly, because I was so into the old school 20-inch bikes. I was narrow-minded, looking through a straw. And I was like, nope, stupid, ugly, and they're just missing the mark with the colors and the look, and then I hated them. And then, like you, I'm 5'8", 185 pounds, 50 years old. Riding a 20-inch bike is not great for any extended period of time. So, yeah, I used to be able to ride at 20 miles all day, every day when I was 15, but that's not the case nowadays. And when you get on a 24, 26-inch bike, and I've had a 29-inch Big Ripper for years, and I loved riding it until I rode a 26. And then I fell in love. Geometry on that bike was so perfect for me to ride around down here at the beach. Comfortable, easy to pedal, easy to ride, easy everything. So now I look at it completely different, and I love them, but I'm a custom bike builder, and I still think a lot of these big box companies that are building these bikes like GT are missing the mark with how they should look. So if you've noticed with that Eddie video you were talking about, that is a 26-inch GT Pro Performer, a brand new one, and it was that Radberry dark purple color they came out with, that translucent purple.
Yep.
I took that bike and immediately stripped it, powder coated it yellow, put World Tour decals on it, put a front brake on it, put chrome rims on it. Like, I just changed the bike to look more appropriately old school, even though it's a new bike. So I wish GT would have just done that and brought back the old school look with a new school bike. But now they're coming out with, like, I don't know, the new Pro Performer this year in the 26 inches, like 8 different colors. It's really weird looking. And again, I would just have to take it and powder coat it. So the 24-inch dyno I just built, it's all black like the 87. It doesn't come that color unless you buy the 29. Mine's a 24. It came in red, which is why Volker decided to do a red. I have no idea. So instantly I took it, stripped it down, powder coated it, re-decaled it, put BMX pretzel bars on it instead of the Cruiser pretzel bars, and I made it look like a 20-inch 87 dyno comp, and now it's a 24 though. So I want the old school look with the new school ride is what I'm going for. So I've been building a lot of those bikes. dynos, GTs, so on and so forth. I've been doing a lot of those lately. I love them.
Yeah,
and
because
parts are readily available, which is nice.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. Go check out his video where he talks about that. You know, the Amazons, the eBays, Pork Chop, all those different outlets. What I think is ironic, though, is this, that it's almost like SE has gotten to such a level. Now people were scratching their heads going, and again, I'm not looking at numbers. I don't know the sales numbers. I don't. But you look at SE, right? They're street team, and they're out there, and they're wheeling, and they're doing all this stuff. And love it or hate it, you get all these kids that are now riding bikes where before they probably weren't. But then, if I go on GT's site now, no slight against him, big Bill Allen fan, right? And Bill, years ago, had hinted that he was going to launch, his own bikes, and he kind of had a couple that were built. And then I think he did something, and the price was kind of, it wasn't cheap. Mm-mm. So I was like, it's a little bit out of my price range. I'm not going to be able to get one of Bill Allen's bikes, but, it kind of had the Crew Jones spin, right? But now GT has one, they announced, and I'm going, okay, it's $1,000, but it's it doesn't have, why not do the blue tires? Why not do a little bit more thing down? It says Crew on it, and it has some nods to RAD. But it's
you're talking about the RAD bike they did.
Yeah, the RAD Series 29, and I thought to myself, if they could have tweaked it a little bit more, you would have had people pulling out their credit cards, going, dude, I don't care, fucking $1,500, man, I fucking want it.
Yeah, I hate to talk negatively about bikes, but they absolutely missed the mark on that bike, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I
and that's my own opinion. I mean, people love the bike, people bought the bike, and if you love it, that's really all that matters. My opinion doesn't matter, but I don't want one. I wouldn't want one if someone gave it to me because it's not my look. It might be. And honestly, I think, and I'm not saying my look is the majority, but they would have done a lot better if they put a more effort on making it look more correct, right? Instead of an homage, tribute, and then they missed the mark with the colors.
Yeah, so, and again, it's no slight. It's just, we've seen it with shoes. We've seen it with all kinds of stuff where it's kind of like, hey, look, we'll give you a thumbs up for the effort, but if you could have just spent a little bit more time, and granted, I know probably during this, you got the pandemic and you got all this. I understand the world's crazy, but that, like you said, that's just our opinion. So
yeah, I think these companies came up late with the heritage lineage bikes, retro bikes. I think they're a couple years too late with it, but whoever's in charge of their design on them didn't ride bikes in the 80s. Whoever's in charge of their design is probably some new school person or someone that's never designed or seen old school bikes at all, because if they were making new school bikes, like retro old school looks, I think they'd be flying off the shelves. I think they would dramatically increase profits like nobody has ever done with a bike line before. Haro's trying really hard. There are people at Haro that I can say trying really hard, but Haro as a company as a whole is not on board with these lineage bikes. But they are some of the better quality retro bikes that are out there. Race Inc.'s doing a pretty good job too with bringing back an old school looking style frame and now starting to come out some sick colors. And I'm pretty happy to see that. There are a couple of bike companies that are out there, but GT's components are awesome looking, but man, they're missing the mark on colors and stuff like that. And we were talking about SE bikes. That's now a movement. Like SE, Todd Lyons, their brand manager, has created almost a cult-like following with their brand. And that's really why SE is so successful right now. The only hang-up I have with them is they've gone a little crazy with the look. And I think because they're almost maybe running out of ideas because they're coming up with a new look every week, it seems like.
Yep.
And it also seems like a lot of the time it's the same bike, just different color, different stickers, different grips, whatever. And changing the overall look.
Yeah, and I almost think it's because, like, think about the people that collect the Nike Air Jordans, and it's like, okay, I like a pair of Jordans and whatnot, but I mean, there's a million colorways, and it's like, is it just that every, all these big super fans go, I got to have every single one? Like, my buddy Tony, I mean, I'm not making this up. He probably, at one point, he probably had 75 or 100 SE bikes. Now, a lot of them were brand new. They were the Miamis. He went and bought like 10, 20 at a time because he was traveling. And he got them all, and then he was making a couple hundred. He wasn't really gouging people, like some people were. But but then, like, when I go to his place and I go, dude, and he's got like the Bassett, and he's got this, and he's got that. And I'm going, dude, Tony, you got man, you got retirement right here. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But
a lot of money tied up in bikes.
Yeah. Speaking the other day when we had exchanged an Instagram direct message. one bike that I wish that, we've kind of seen, and I know Mongoose has been sold. My buddy Billy, has kind of explained how some of these bike companies ended up, folded into each other back in the day for this one big conglomerate. I think they own Schwinn and some of these different bike companies. But when you look at the Karate Kid movie, that 2.4, I think it was called, that bike is like super rare. I think I remember like 10, 15 years ago looking into it. It's like you can't find one, right?
Yeah.
I hope, and I'm not saying I would maybe even go buy it, but I would hope like start releasing stuff like that maybe in a 24 or 26, 29, because those bikes, like with Karate Kid, especially with Cobra Kai being so successful, it's like you're kind of dumb not to,
Exactly.
So
I agree. And they are very rare, by the way. I drove all the way to the other side of Los Angeles, north of LA, not too long ago to buy a 26-inch hutch. And when I get there, I buy this hutch, and the guy didn't realize that it was serial number 001.
No way.
And so I bought this hutch, just biting my lip to where you could almost taste blood in my mouth, just wanting to get into my car and drive away after giving him the money, hoping he doesn't realize what I just bought. And then he says, I have another hutch, a 24-inch. I also have a 2.4. And I went, I didn't bring enough money. I just gave him $2,200 for the hutch I bought. And then I'm thinking, I don't even want to ask how much you want. Like, I will literally drain my bank account if I don't drive away.
Yeah.
So they're still out there, and people still have them. They didn't all go to a junkyard or a thrift store. They're still floating around, but you're right, they're rare. And I think there are companies that I'm starting to see some companies like R4, I think is the name of the company. Not trying to plug their company. I just seen it.
Sure.
Does a 29-inch that looks a lot like a Mongoose, and even the colors on it. And they're selling it at a great price point, but at the same time, 29 is too big for me, so I don't even really look at 29-inch bikes. I'm more into a 24, 26 because my body size just fits better. And also, you get that big front wheel flop on a big, heavy 29-inch bike. You turn the wheel and it just wants to flop over because they're so tight. The geometry on them, your toes hit the front wheel when you turn it. They just get too big at some point.
Yep.
But there's definitely a 29-inch movement out there, that's for sure. Todd Mines has proven that.
I know. I know what I was going to say earlier. I kind of forgot. I have my whole Lincoln Addict brand where I post Lincolns and stuff, and occasionally I'll open the Facebook app to bring me over so I can look at the comments and like and comment back, and it's like the amount of hate that people get, on these airbag Lincolns. They're like, "Oh, did you reinforce the frame?" And it's like it's a unibody. There's no frame, and it's like some of the people like. A lot of them, and listen, I'm not no age discrimination. They're like older, real old white guys, and they'll be like, I remember, you guys are ruining these cars. And I'm like, dude, this car was built 15 years ago. Like, just stop, And I know, like, the bad thing is, okay, social media, you want interaction. You and I both know that. The bad thing is when people comment those type of things, like, I'm like, I don't even comment back, and like you said, I just block them, and I'm like, I'm losing subscribers and followers, but I'm like, I don't care, because it's like, dude, like, if you don't like something, to your point earlier, Sean, just keep scrolling, no big deal, man.
Yeah, let it go. You're not going to change my mind, or I'm not going to go back and make it the way you wanted it. I made it the way I wanted it because it's mine.
Oh yeah.
I didn't build the bike for you. All my bikes I build for me. I don't build for other people. I don't build for a customer in mind. I don't do restorations for people. I build a bike the way I want it built. I'm not building it to look like it looked in the catalog. I'm not building it to be a show bike. I'm building it to be a vision of how I wanted to build it. That's how I build my bikes.
Oh yeah.
And then if I'm done with it and I sell it, you can do whatever you want to it. I don't care, or love it the way it is. So don't get on there and hack on everything I do, because I'm doing it for me the way I want it, not the way you think it should be or the way that it was when it came out. That's not how I build bikes.
Yep.
So I'm like a mini trucker. Everything's its own style, right? You go out there, maybe you find out you did something different, and then it becomes a thing. Like, everyone's doing it. Like, hey, I'm going to fleck my speaker box. Holy smokes! Now look, everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to shave my doors like an old hot rod did, and now everyone's got shaved doors, tailgates, and gas filler doors, and cowls. Everything's shaved.
Oh yeah.
So by being different, you could actually come across something that will become the most popular, amazing thing ever at some point if you're lucky, and you created it. If you do everything the same all the time, nothing will ever evolve, and I strongly believe that. So why duplicate something identical to the way it's been 35 years? I want to change it a little bit and put my own touch on it. I want to be able to walk through a bike show and go, hey, that's one of my old bikes. And I know that because it's a little bit different, you know?
Oh, yeah. Just got a couple more things for you, Sean. One of them is when I went to Spring Fling a few years ago, I got a chance to meet Bob Haro. And, you know, there were some other guys there. And, you know, I never had a Haro bike growing up, but I knew Bob in terms of the magazines, right? And I kicked myself because, you know, he signed a couple things and he was super cool. And we had this conversation, like super down to earth. And then later on, I found this article only to realize that he had submitted most of the photos, but we just had the 40th anniversary of ET. And Bob, I find out through this article that, again, I sent it to Bob, and Bob was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that. And I go back and look, and I was like, yeah, all the photos were Bob's photos that he submitted. But the crazy thing is, I didn't know at the time that he was he was an ET, but he was technically, I found out through the article on narratively.com, that he was the only stunt rider credited in the movie. And I thought to myself, that was 40 years ago, and if you think how far things have come, you know, with movies and you know, you have BMX Bandits and RAD and, you know, even the skateboard movies and stuff. It's crazy that it's been this 40-year run, and obviously it even goes back before that, like you said, in the 70s, man.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, Bob, I've never met him personally. I mean, I was at Haro today. Bob doesn't own Haro anymore, but he lives close to there. And he has a big event this Saturday down in the San Diego area. And everyone there asks me, are you going to go Saturday? Are you going to go Saturday? Friday, I'm leaving for Puerto Vallarta. It's my wife's birthday on Saturday.
Okay.
So I'm going to be in Mexico, which is a great alternative to not going to Bob's ride out on Saturday. But it's a shame because I still want to meet Bob. I've yet to meet Bob myself. I've had a great opportunity living here, meeting just about every single pro that lives in this area, but I've yet to meet Bob. And I've messaged him a few times on Instagram and shown him some of my Haro builds, but we really haven't had much interaction.
Yep.
So I look forward to it someday at some point. He doesn't live that far away. He's like an hour away. I hope sometime, if he's listening to this, we got to get together at some point. So let's make that happen.
Yeah, and definitely
bring time.
You got to bring something of old VHS, ET, something, because I kind of wish I would have had him sign something. But you know, he signed a couple of things, and dude, he's a super cool guy. Like I said, I don't have any connection to the. You know, I'm kind of lucky to have just met the couple guys I did. But you know, I kind of wanted to share that. The other thing I wanted to share that's on your YouTube channel, I would tell people, check out RAD BMX Builds. Let's show Sean. Military veteran, amazing dude that you've learned, of course, through this podcast. Show him some love. Go out there. It's free. Just subscribe to his YouTube channel. Radical Rick interview. Now, Radical Rick had Tell us about
so
that.
Good.
Dude.
So yeah, this was. I'm actually right in front of my Radical Rick display right now while we're talking. So it's kind of awesome you brought that up. So Damian Fulton is his name, and he is the artist of Radical Rick. And this guy is so much more than Radical Rick, but Radical Rick is how I know him. You know, growing up as a kid, going in and grabbing the magazine and flipping through right to read Radical Rick's cartoon in the magazine. I remember that as a kid. And I never thought beyond the cartoon strip, like who's drawing that? I didn't care, right? You just wanted to see Radical Rick. Because we all lived through Radical Rick. Radical Rick was like the kid we wished we could, or he was our friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all related to him in some way. So when I got here in California, I realized Damian Fulton, the artist, doesn't live too far away. And I messaged him, and probably the most humble, down-to-earth, coolest guy I think I may have ever met. And I said, would you be interested in doing an interview for my YouTube channel, which had almost nobody on it at the time? He said, yeah, I think that's awesome. And he starts looking at my page, and he's like, wow, you're really involved in this BMX stuff, and that's great. And he came to my house. He's the only person I've ever actually had come to my house. I'm usually a very private person and where I live. But I wanted to do an interview with him. And you talked about the Eddie Fiola interview I did. That was at a garage right near Miramar Naval Air Station, so the jets are flying over. It's very uncontrolled, very loud background, poor lighting. Like, it wasn't the greatest. And I didn't want to duplicate that with Damian. So I thought my living room would be the best place for that, even though here at the beach it's pretty loud. But it was better than where I was with Eddie. So Damian came over. I got to meet him. We talked off camera for a little bit, and I realized him and I have so much in common. We almost lived the same lives growing up as kids.
Damn.
He grew up near here riding bikes and skateboards, and I was like, you are me, just a few years older. It was really crazy. We chewed a lot of the same dirt growing up. So the interview went very well, and it was so natural going back and forth with him. And then the coolest part, and I really wanted this to happen, and maybe I willed it to happen, but I never wanted to ask him to do it. He voluntarily sat down at my dinner table and drew a personalized Radical Rick drawing for me right in person in front of me. And I filmed it, and it's in that video. You can watch him draw that drawing, which is now framed right here in my living room. And so he drew it out freehand and then watercolored it and then presented it to me. And that's the thumbnail. You see me holding that photo. And then I ran out and got it framed, and now it's right here in my living room. And Damien and I are still talking to this day. Good guy. And I thought that video would do so much better, but I mean, a lot of people don't like to watch interviews, but you should watch that one because such a rad dude and such a crazy experience to actually watch him draw is great.
Yeah, and it will over time, I think, with the algorithms the way they are and the stuff I've learned. It's like there's no rhyme or reason, but I am gonna check it out. I've added that to my queue as well. Now, again, I'm not the biggest collector. I've got a handful of bikes, kind of some mongoose stuff here and there, but I have a keen eye on social media, and about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, they had announced that he was going to do like the little he did some sort of pack where it was a box and it had some individual things and whatnot, and I was able to get in. I guess they sold out quick, and I bought one of those. That's
awesome.
The only thing I really have that's connected. But for you to be able to meet him come to your house, and he just when you see him, he's like a real guy, but to your point, we all kind of lived through him vicariously through the drawings and the cartoons.
And in my interview, I made it a point to ask. I ask a lot of the off questions that normal interviews wouldn't ask, and I want to know what Radical Rick's face looks like. Have you ever drawn him without the helmet and goggles? I ask him questions like that. And what is your influence? What's your inspiration on these places that you're drawing? Are they real places? Are these real tracks? Where are you drawing this, all this? Where's the inspiration coming from? And I ask him questions like that. So it was a lot of fun to dig down into that. And afterwards, he's like, wow, you really made me think about a lot of those, because I've just been living that life for so long. I didn't really think about what made me want to draw him like that, or his, all the other characters in the Radical Rick series and how they came about, like the bullies and stuff. We always draw from those experiences personally in order to come up with stuff. So it's kind of a really neat story to hear from him.
Yeah, awesome. 100%. And I tell you, Sean, we've had a great trip down memory lane talking about, the old school, a little bit of minis, of course, your brand, which again, I would encourage people, Instagram and YouTube, it's free. RAD BMX Builds. You can go to the website as well. Now, of course, you can show them some love if you want to go above and beyond, buy a hat, buy some merch.
Yes, please.
I'd love to see down the road, right? I know it's easy for people to go, oh, I'd love to see you launch. I would love to see some snapbacks and/or flat bill hats. And then, dude, you can have my money. You know what I'm saying? If you get any of those,
all my hats are snapbacks.
Okay,
they're all snapbacks, but they're not flat billed. I look weird in a flat bill, but I could probably get some for you.
Yeah, if you
all my merch though is.
Yep.
All my merch is through Bunker Branding, which is owned by a YouTuber, and all the merch he does is for other YouTubers. And they're out of Boerne, Texas. And his name is Matt. He owns Demolition Ranch. This guy has 10 million followers on one channel, 4 million on another, 4 million on another. He's got 3 different channels. So he's a huge YouTuber. And all the other YouTubers kind of in his circles use this company called Bunker Branding that he created. So all these YouTubers that sell merch, a lot of them are coming through him. Sick. So if you buy merch through my website at radbmxbuilds.com, it's fulfilled at Bunker Branding and shipped from there. So I don't hold any inventory. I can't give you a cool deal or mail it and sign it. Yeah. I can't do any of that. Yeah. So it's all through a distributor, so to speak.
Yep.
So you order it through the website, the order's sent to them, they fill it and ship to you. So that's how the process is. And I'm sorry, but I would love to personally give it to you, but I would be sitting on inventory, and I just don't have the space to do it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's smart. I know I was helping my buddy with delivery stuff for a while after I kind of retired from the company I was at for a long time, and like the Dude Perfect stuff. They have a crazy YouTube channel and all that, and all their stuff comes from the same type of thing. So I mean, it's smart business.
Yeah.
So I like it. But I mean, we've had such a good trip down memory lane, and I appreciate it. Like I said, the cool thing is I don't know the most about bikes. A lot of people reach out to me, and I'll say, look, man, and I'll ask my buddy Tony, and he'll know. But I truly love it. I mean, I rode my bike so much as a kid, and I know enough to like have a conversation. But it's cool to be able to sit down with you, someone that's so passionate, again, someone that gave almost 3 decades of service to the country. And I know Independence Day is getting ready to come up. And like I said, I want to tip of the cap and thank you, man, for your service again. But, dude, just keep doing what you do, man, and the sky's the limit, my friend Sean.
You the same. I love that you do this. This is such a great opportunity. And if you'll ever have me back, I'm always available to you. So just let me know. I love sitting here chatting about bikes and trucks and the history of all of that, and it's my pleasure. So anytime you want to hit me up to do this, if anyone else has questions or anything, let us know. I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you want to contact me directly, just the best way to get a hold of me is the DMs on Instagram, or in my website there's an email link if you want to do any sort of collaborations or anything like that. That's a good way to get a hold of me too.
Yeah, check out his pad sets, some of the number sets. You got some cool stuff if you want to add it to your man or woman cave. Happy Born Day to your wife, and enjoy Mexico, dude. And I'll keep in touch with you, brother.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. We're out of here, everyone. Listen, stay tuned. We'll hit you guys next week with another episode. Gotcha.